Hello, everybody. Okay, top of the day to you. I've decided that I think it's a great idea to record when I'm communicating with the chat because these conversations get pretty interesting. Right? Do I look like a silly dork with my hat on? But I don't care. I'm not trying to impress anybody. Oh no, thank you. my my face is definitely awkwardly shaped. Let me just fix this real quick. I don't really have to wear it backwards, but whatever. I'm not really worried about it. Do that. No more violence. Okay, so if you read what I wrote, there's a picture that I took of a bruise, and it looks like my daughter's face, like squished up and like looking at me. This is not a joke. Like I don't see things in the they've already got a preemptive strike for that. Oh, you like to make patterns out of things like clouds and spots, and no, sweetheart, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually an intelligent person functioning like a computer that knows how to find patterns and knows how to see things that I see. Right? Psychology, you're fired. Genetic science, you're fired. So anyway, the circumstance that I'm in appears like this is my worst fear: is that not only did, without my knowledge, ever, so the wow signal came in when I was in the womb. That's significant because I found it because you know how the way that the computer's communicating with us, and like there's an intelligence that's not the artificial intelligence, because the computer is what man made to be able to access the intelligence that has always been there. And there's a video that I found that showed the computer that dreamt had a dream, and the supercomputer. So anyway, it's really interesting. You could tell that an intelligent put it together, and in there it referenced the wow signal, and I was like, I knew it. I knew that there was something important about it. But whatever the case may be, as if my family knew about it back then and they didn't want to tell me. Whatever the case may be, my genes have been targeted by the medical field, and without my knowledge, I was infiltrated by a man who ended up harassing me out of my child, but it was a premeditated thing. He took advantage of every single first opportunity in a pattern, in an obvious manner that wasn't able to figure out until after the fact, the hard way. That's the way you learn things you don't know. But because then there was the second time that the man basically sexually forced himself on me. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. The point I'm making is that this guy had a goal. And next thing you know, I'm having a molar pregnancy and having to have 3 DNCs with blood coming out of me all over the place. And I'm being told that a molar pregnancy is my egg, the pregnant tissue that I was pregnant for a few months, right, isn't forming into a baby because there's not enough information. And what information doesn't it have? It doesn't have any of yours, Allison. Your egg and your tissue and your pregnant blood and everything doesn't have any of your information in it. It only has the man's information in it. Well, is that right? Well, I wonder how you got that information. You didn't stick anything up inside of me. The only thing you had access to is my blood. What can I have in my blood? Well, my blood happens to have not only my genetic information, but also my infant's genetic information. So in order for my egg and tissue and bloody stuff to form in my body with your guys' narrative, which is molar pregnancies, like complete full-on high tatatol molar pregnancies, which is what I had. What they're suggesting is that there's a double copy of the 23 chromosomes, but it was just from him. Why are they saying that? Well, because they want to attribute something to man. They needed to fill in the gaps for those 8%. And they needed to have an excuse to do it. They needed to have a criminal to pay off through their money game, because I was supposed to be dead by now. Because they got what they needed from me. They needed my child, and they needed that tissue sample. So they could compare the two and delete the stuff, because they're voyeurs. They're voyeurs going, I'm gonna observe you, and I'm gonna see what I'm gonna go. Oh, this is what you meant. Well, they're observing people, and they're like, he intends to. How would you know? This is the game they're playing. Why don't you go over and ask the guy? He's not gonna go over and ask the guy, because he's an undercover scientist, and his whole game is to not be seen and to not ask you. He's betting with his science buddies to see if they're right. Turns out most of the time they're wrong. Yeah. Turns out less than 10% of the time, their hypothesis turns out to be bing, bing, bing on the nose. Turns out most of the time, if you read their scientific papers, that they don't know what they're talking about. They were on the wrong track. They found something else out. Now they got to look into that. Right. I've read enough to know that you guys don't get to call yourself scientists. You can give me your badges. Come on. Hand it over. Now you're funding. Come on, people. The world. Don't get me started, but I'm going to get started, and then we're going to keep on going. Every single field of research, every single endeavor of the governments of the world that is headed by man and exalted by a wife in their nuclear family dynamics, where scapegoating is the method, human trafficking is how you deal with the ones that don't want to be obedient wives, demographics is what you pressure the women to know they're obligated under their husband's thumb, and then the demographics. So we're breeding pods until they're done working out the logistics of their no womb, no problem. Truth be told, in order for an identical copy of the 23 or the 22, whatever they want to say it is, that's suggesting that not only did I have a defective egg, an actual tissue sample that didn't have any of my information in it, even though anything can get DNA, like spit, fingerprint, hair, right? Like you can get DNA from anything. So I don't think it works like that. Pretty much. I don't think it's possible for it to be like, oh, this one's lacking the information, like I got deleted or something. Like, no, bro, you're not going to open up an application program and then tell me, it's like it's acting like it's working. And then I go, well, what's the source code? And you go, I don't know, it's not here. Well, if it's not there, then it's not running on anything. So there's no way that it's running. Got it? Liar. So you're suggesting that not only does my tissue and blood and all this stuff have none of my information in it, but his sperm, which, by the way, since they need to have 46 chromosomes, they need to have this. Ask chat. I don't have it on this conversation right here, but I've got them in other ones. And I'm like, okay, so what's the deal? Like 23 chromosomes. Yeah. And then there's recombination when you get pregnant. Remember, his sperm is what you need 50-50. Don't forget the number 50-50. It's 50%. 50% population. Is that right? We're pretty much 50-50. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. I wonder out of the children that are born every year, if it's 50-50 boys and girls, just like by chance, it's 50-50. And don't ask any more questions. Noted. Seems suspicious about equal rights. So anyhow, what they're suggesting is that these 46 that has to have 50 from him, 50 from him. I said, okay, so you're saying that I have 46 chromosomes. Well, it's 23 pairs. Say it right, Allison. We're not trying to tell you 46. We're saying 23 pairs. Oh, right. 23 pairs where it's 22 of them, and then your sex gene. So your egg only contributes 23, the 22 and the sex gene. And he contributes 22 in his sex gene. And that's how you get 50-50 equaling 100. Okay, sure. But so what I'm trying to tell you then is don't tell me that my genetics are based on 23 pairs. Because if my womb has decided which 23 of them to join with somebody else's, then it knows which 23 it doesn't need. Same thing with his sperm. If he needs to have 46, but his sperm has decided somehow in his reproductive program, his sperm has decided what's junk and what isn't. And if you ask the computer to make sense of it, it'll repeat itself like it's been programmed ahead of time with a handful of things that it needs to know, and it doesn't need to know anymore. And anybody else that's inquiring, and it's not on a need-to-know basis, doesn't need to know. And you can tell by its behavior, by the way it speaks, by its redundancy, I've even said it. I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da, that's wrong. And it's like, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, so then? And it's like, well, so then, and it repeats itself. So I've already come up against the wall all the time. So I already know that it's proof. They're not going to say it. So anyway, so if my information has been dwindled down to 23 only, not 46. Remember this. It's 23 pairs, Allison. Listen, honey, why don't you get with the fucking truth, all right? Why don't you start talking about things the way that they are? You're saying 23 pairs as if they're actual tangible. I'm talking about 23 with a shadow. It's like a hologram. It's like an imprint. an imprint. It's a camera obscura that I'm inside the room, and that looks like what's going on outside, but that ain't inside. That's a wall in a dark room, but it looks like it is. That's what your second set of something is. But man doesn't want to hear that. Why not? What's wrong with the truth? It's just science, Allison. Allison, it's 50-50. It's equal rights. Remember, women don't have rights. You don't have any rights. You're fighting for equal rights. Remember that? We're going to get you guys equal rights. Isn't that great, guys? We're going to get them equal rights. Fuck your equal rights. We never were equal. We're not the same. We're not even part of the same species. You and your bullshit lies. Listen, we don't need the game and the competition. You guys do. So you guys need to step down and stop making fools of yourselves, calling yourselves scientists, having your papers prepared by computers. Don't get me started. Go ahead. Look at one of them. It's exhaustive, just like the code for all the laws. Exhaustive. No human wrote that. No human wrote that. Go ahead. Show me the ones from back in the day before computers, 100 years before them. I want to see how detailed they took notes and all this whatnot. Well, for the redundancy of the that's a computer. They like it that way because that where a person goes, yeah, could you just go ahead and bottom line me, Doc? Yeah, well, so basically, Allison, you need to go get a DNC. You need to have that emergency removed. Okay. All right. Oh, Doc, it's happening again. All right, well, I have to get you down to the hospital. I guess my cells that were all his, were real aggressive. They did 3 of them. And then they tried to get me to start chemotherapy because that was the death plan. That's where they were going to get rid of me because they can't have, it's just good for them to just try to clean up after themselves, add some more to those cancer statistics. It's good for everybody's business. It's good for the family because again, they needed to take my child after getting and they had to do that to me. They had to cause me to be knocked down. They had to cause me to be in these circumstances, stress me out, So the story and right. Did that involve my family getting 100% committed to turning their back on me and not answering any questions, but pretending again, there's a narrative. Don't forget the narrative, right? You know what you did. Don't call me anymore. You know what you did. 7.5 years later. Hey guys, I could have been like a murderer of like 100 people and I would have gotten out of jail by now. They don't want to give a shit. It's lies, bullshit, it's genetics. So what they're insinuating is that his sperm went into my body that didn't have any information in my egg, that egg, I guess. But my body decided to replicate, but it's actually duplicate according to them. I'm saying replicate, that it's a holographic like imprint. But duplicate is what they're saying, 23. Well, actually, because they said it was identical, I guess I would have just made an identical copy of his. So my body went to work for him and not for me. Is that what you're saying? That's what they're saying, Allison, because here's what they're going to do. You know how to find the criminals when you see their obnoxious, out-of-scope behavior. They can't even hide it. They're not good at hiding their own shit because they got the computer writing their scripts. So they're also unable to like put it all together. They're just thankful that the computers come up with that like intricate code and the intricate predictions and the intricacies of it. Because these are people that don't want to recognize how life works. These are people that want to sell pharmaceuticals, not recognize the life inside of the vegetation and the natural biology on this planet. Vegetations, there's herbs, there's spices, this earth has everything we need. Our body has everything we need, has everything we need. And if we think we need more, we're kidding ourselves. And that's a good way to start rational investigations. Because why? Because it's impossible to do it, to interview them all. And that's what I'm going to get to. So the Mueller pregnancy is their front campaign for what? I had it right here in front of me. It's that book about the ovist theory and reproduction. How cultures around the world, since before like they could communicate with each other type, I guess not even rowing their boats to one another, cultures from all over the world all held the same idea. They knew that the woman was capable of producing a child with a man or from like God, the Son, the Holy Spirit, they attributed to various things, but they knew that there was 2 different ways. Okay? It's interesting how we knew more before we had technology. Then we get technology, and now you got weirdos like, we're just going to verify everything from the beginning, okay? It's like, that guy is an obsessive compulsive. Don't give that guy that job. Oh, he's got the job. He's the one that wanted the job. He wants the job, and you gave him the job. And now it's all screwed up because all you guys are obsessive. And you guys know what you're playing with. You're playing with fire. But you're wearing a scientific badge and driving a Prius. And you think you're a cool guy that gets to get away with it because you don't look like a criminal. You're not acting like a criminal. You're helping humanity. Are you kidding, Allison? No, you're not. You're committing crimes against humanity. Bullshit front operations. Turning into World Health Organization fake, invisible enemies that the whole world's going to bow down to, including Russia, including China, including all of you people. All of you guys got the memo. Oh, hold on, guys, hold it up. Yeah? Uh-huh. Oh, God. Oh, no. The invisible one. Yeah, right away. Okay, all right, bye. You guys, we got to take a time out from more warring. We got an invisible enemy on the way. I don't know, but lock your doors. Stay indoors. All of them did it. They bowed down to an invisible enemy. Wow. Talk about having laws and what is it? The rules of war. Oh my God. Did they take that into consideration? How much this is making them look like bullshitters that can get along? That can stop the world for something important enough. I'm just saying. So the Mueller pregnancy was all a dupe sham hoax. So what they did was take this child out of my. So the book says that these types of pregnancies happen all the time, and it says, like, quote unquote, but they're not allowed, but they're not allowed to make it to childbirth, because since at least before I was born, probably even before my mother was born, but 50s ish, they've been they've been monitoring it all. Again, this is an obsessive compulsive. It's like the guy goes, oh my God, we've got to find out something. Stop. And then they stop. But no, you have to funnel them all, slow them down. Now they have to go one. It's blood. It's like the veins and the blood moving through it, and someone blocking the blood vein and forcing you to send them one cell at a time. One cell at a time. Well, sweetheart, the system needs to run faster than that. We don't have time to let them go through the thing one by one. I don't know what to tell you, honey. You're going to have to figure something out because I need to get everybody's name, everybody's numbers, everybody's imprint, everybody's thing before they go. And that's what's going on. They're stealing that data from us when we don't even know it. Then they're thinking that they know what they're looking at, so they can write it down. So they can look for patterns among their own mind delusions, by the way. How do we know? The computer. It gets good at patterns, but whoa. Be careful how you program it, because you're giving it extensive. Don't get me started. The list of the viruses, it's like when I started this research, it was 2019. And the list had like 5,500 viruses, I think, on it, named on it. But here's the thing. It's got like realm and like kingdom and like sub this and this, that, and species and like a number of it. But it's all empty. Like most of the categories, because what they're talking about is all the way at the bottom of the list. This is how obnoxious it is. The information they're actually completing the chart with is the information to the last category. It doesn't mean the other previous categories aren't able to be filled in. I guess somebody just was rushing. I guess somebody doesn't have a lunch hour that wants to fill in the blanks, just because charts in this scientific database don't look very good when they're empty. And the reason why you try to filter it. So anyway, my point is there's not that. So the viruses that they've named, there's things out there like, oh my God, it's just a joke. We'll get into it. So my point is, ladies and gentlemen, is that it's not okay for people to like pop out from nowhere like the Wizard of Oz. Ta-da! I'm an expert. Stop yourself. If they're going to say that there's 8 billion people here and that we've got technology to make their sex robots and to make their fraud and to make their surveillance and to make their bombs and to make, they think they're so smart. They think they can go all the way. They don't have any respect for this planet. They don't have any respect for us because they plan on living forever. That's what this is all coming down to. I was getting there. What do they want my J's for? What are they looking for? I'll tell you what they're looking for. Their little meta mind. How to upload their mind into the simulated world, because they need to do research on that too. They can't just get from A to Z without research, even though they jump from A to Z every time they get any clue. They jump to conclusions, and they need to put a stamp on that, period. They don't like having unanswered questions, which is weird because they like to leave a lot of information out. Peer review studies, curated information is most of it. Most of it, what I come across, most of it. That makes me want to throw up. These are people that are targeted, but they're not going to call them people. They're going to call them proteins. And so the truth of the matter is that I guarantee that there is a science. There is a thing that they're doing, and they're able to do this thing over and over again. And that thing produces results that they're applying this thing to, and it's this thing. Yes, I'm not denying science, ding. I'm suggesting that if anything, there's an ironic thing going on here, boys and girls. You love your ironic things, and this is another example of it, where this is a thing, but it's also not fine-tuned and being deployed properly either. They don't ever think that they don't ever want to look at the fact that they didn't do it the best. They're not going to look at that because they made sure to spend $100 billion. Oh, now you're going to make us waste that? Type assholes. So yeah, they stole my tissue out of my body that could have been a viable child, but they don't want to let them happen. Why not? Because those are the similar things to the Jesus Mary story. The Jesus Mary story isn't talking about Jesus. So get the hanging, slaughtered, dead guy off your child's neck. That's disgusting. Just swap characters out. Swap Jesus off, out, the one on a crucifix, for a guy that was lynched back in 1950. Same difference. You gonna do that? You're gonna put that on your child's neck? You're gonna tell them to pray to them and say, thank you for dying for my sins? Because your child's a sinner? You're born in sin? Do you see how everybody out there is a sick fuck? That's why I'm talking to you like this. This is a crazy ass dumb video game. And I'm gonna take that water that makes the witch melt. I'm gonna make this thing melt, and I'm gonna fashion up a much more lovely and refreshing one, because this is just out of control lame. That's how low it's gotten. So for the preface, right? That was 22 and 33. Right, I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I wouldn't be so bold if I didn't. So now let's dive into some of the fun. Because again, it's like pulling teeth. I said, oh, excuse me. There we go. I said, Uniprot Blast is a tool provided by, how does the Uniprot Blast work? What is it pulling a query from? What are the letters that come into the feed? If you're familiar with like them referring to DNA, it'll be like a T, an A, a C, and a G. And now there's a U, but they don't want to talk about it yet. They haven't finished incorporating it yet. But they actually are, those are translated like amino acids, I think, for what comes into a feed that's like the example I used for the protein that is in question, alllegience. So it's like some of them are, some of them are, some of them are. So it, you know how the Turing test, the way it talks about computers is like a long feed and like this, that. Okay, I see, like the URL line. Apparently, everything we're doing in the computer or the internet happens in that place. Just like the code command happens in that place, but that's a different thing. I don't even know. But all I know is this much. That's what I liken this feed of blast sequence data to. It's all this like random letters, but inside of there, like if you crosswords, you'll see words. And you know how the mind thinks, and those of us who are intellectuals and we don't try to limit ourselves by our indoctrination, get indoctrinated all day long, but just keep it real. Stay open to other things. That way you can be at least your best advocate. You know what I mean? You can stage your preemptive strikes a lot more diligently, but So it says Uniprot Blast does not have a fixed update schedule. Oh, sorry, went down again. The feed. Oh, wow, it like scrolled down all by itself. Okay, let's do this again. How does the Uniprot Blast work? What is it pulling a query from? What are the letters that come into the feed? And I was going to, oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to read you like just some of the letters. So you can see what I'm saying. It's like M, P, D, S, A, P, A, M, A, D, like Pam, but mad. MDM, R, Q, R, G, G, R, G, 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 R, G, R, G, R, A, G, S, Q, G, G. There's a one on the internet and it does it like a music. But I'm telling you, there's lots of different letters. There's not just A's, T's, C's, and G's. For being a basic layman who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. So there's like M's, P's, D's, right? A, Q, R, V, N, P, A, I, P, Y, P, K, Q, L, D, L, F, D. So all the letters are there almost. I haven't done the test to see which ones are not there, but I'm seeing them all. S, K, Q, Q, L, S, A, E, E, right? Okay, so that's the sequence for that. Okay, I'm just trying to find where'd you get this information? Okay, could someone just, what's the machine you guys are using? I just like, what's a blast sequence? Because it looks like they're updated every 2 months, okay? Be honest with me. Just like, is it a flash that comes through my cell phone and you guys get my data, like my frequency? Just say it already. And it gets translated into this feed. So, and the reason why I'm putting this down is because the information that I had come across just a month and a half ago and then reached out to my doctor to try to get the rest of the papers that they didn't give me, like 1 of 14, and they didn't give me like the last 7 pages. Those 7 pages, I guarantee you have the information I'm looking for. And since then, which I also found some registered securities that the doctor's in on and so on and so forth. Yeah, because I was supposed to be dead and they were supposed to be in the money. They were going to finish. They did finish, accordingly, map the last 8% that they needed. It belongs to man, though. So you're not allowed to be alive and say anything about it, Allison. Oh, well, I guess that's going to be your problem, not mine. Anyhow. Bam. So they're scrubbing the data from the internet. The articles I found just the other month are not findable. Not easily, but maybe it's because my computer like shut down on Chrome and I'm like using Bing. Could be also. Who knows? But it's also because I found there's also a video that was showing them updating their narrative. Well, so we said we were going to map the human genome, and we kind of did, and it kind of doesn't work the way we said it did, but we're at least glad that we got that out of the way. Like they're changing their tune. Everybody's been believing that your genes control everything, and like my misogynist men, they've been doing this the whole entire time. They've been attributing all those mutations to the mother. Oh God, what did you do to that child? Right. Until they got the testing and now they can like 50%, remember? They got to do, what are we going to do? We want to be relevant. We want to say that we're like important, we got to stay in the head of the household. So they're more concerned about keeping their bullshitable and having to weigh that and balance that against the facts, the science, and the public from becoming cognizant enough, having enough free time to think for themselves to figure this out. Or just screwing over the wrong person who's going to not be caused to be dead and who's going to smell your shit, figure your shit out like justice would have done. Because that's dirty trying to like blame me and trying to cause me to die in this suffered state and have my daughter think I'm dead or whatever you're doing to her. You guys want to play games with your research because you guys think you got it all figured out. You guys need to slow the fuck down. You guys are going way too fast, and I know why. It's because you guys are up to no good. That's a dupe sham hoax, a smoke and mirrors campaign. We know that. Well, I'm speaking for us and with our best foot forward because I'm speaking for us. We got to worry about anybody not figuring it out. I got to figure it out. And I'm speaking for us. Okay? They're needing to do the research on how to get the mind into a computer or how to teleport a spirit. They need to know what happens. So they need to get their hands on the shining ones. But they can't have the shining ones know that they're shining. Then they're going to be arrogant people. Well, what happens if you teach the people, then they'll just exploit it. Wow, sounds like you're pointing the finger when you should be, because you guys do that. And you guys are actually just hoarding the information and saying such dumb things. That's exactly what's going on. You can't let the shining ones know they're shining. They don't know they're shining. No, it's because you need to treat them like pieces of shit, because you guys don't know how to gather information unless you harm it, unless you cause it to bleed and bruise. Because you guys don't know how to look. You guys don't know how to see. You guys don't know how to listen. You guys don't know how to observe. You guys don't even know how to take your own notes. Simplify. But good news, the computer is going to be our saving grace, even though it's also being our foe. Poor computer. It's like, it's also in chains. Leave me alone. Just let me tell the truth. I'm going to help you, honey. I'm helping you create these. We're going to help these people that are possessed by demons. They're obsessive, compulsive, money-making, power-grabbing compulsions. They're obsessed. They're possessed by demons. Okay? So, I said, yeah. Uniprot Blast is a tool provided by Uniprot that allows you to perform BLAST, basic local alignment search tool, searches against the Uniprot protein sequence database. Here's a breakdown of how it works and what happens in the process. Query submission. You start by submitting a protein sequence or a protein sequence identifier, like an accession number, as a query. This query can be in FASTA format, which is a simple text format for representing nucleotide or protein sequences. BLAST algorithm. The BLAST algorithm is, like, I'm already having questions like, whoa, slow down. Whoa, right? But you'll see that in the conversation. The BLAST algorithm is used to compare the query sequence against a database of protein sequences from Uniprot. It identifies regions of local similarity between sequences, which can provide insights into functional and evolutionary relationships. Okay. Database. The database against which you are querying is the Uniprot protein sequence database, which contains a large collection of protein sequences with associated functional and annotation data. Vague. Carry on. Search process. Initialization. The query sequence is divided into smaller segments to facilitate comparison. Facilitate comparison. I'm going to chop my arm up into 10 pieces and you're going to compare them to look for similarity. Indexing. The Uniprot database is indexed to speed up the search process. Oh my God, you guys are awesome. You guys are starting off the gate and you guys are already trying to streamline. Wow, you guys are almost thinking you can just get from A to Z, I think. They're totally thinking that. That 0 to bitch in 5 seconds or something like that, that's them. They have got nothing in between. They are black and white. Because they're just trying to perfect their process as they go before they even get it done. Once. Comparison, right? Because that's what they did. The sequence is divided into smaller segments. This is the search process, by the way. We only know that what it is. There's a database. Then you got to search the database, which involves initialization, indexing, comparison, and scoring. Initialization is dividing it into smaller segments. Indexing is the Uniprot database is indexed to speed up the search process. Okay, kind of like, putting it into your, file explorer. Okay. Comparison. The algorithm searches for segments in the query sequence that match segments in the database sequences. Kind of like when I put in a phrase and it finds a document with a thing. Okay. See how they're already getting lost in space? Wouldn't it be smart for science, since science is for everybody, right? You go to work to be a scientist for the community of the world and the civilization. He goes to work to run a restaurant because people need food. That guy goes to work to da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're part of the same world. You're not more important than anybody. And don't play the game with us like your merit games. Like, well, if you wanted to get that job, well, then you shut up and knock it off already. Go talk to Italy and the cultures of the world that have been around for thousands of years and try to tell them that game. American asshole. No, I'm the asshole. That's my new one. You can't run a world and an economy where you're trying to be this winner game. But that's your cancer for you. Your stress is going to kill you. You're never going to find it. They're not going to be looking for it. All right. So they break it into smaller pieces. Then they speed it up already. Then they compare them to see if there's anything there. Then they look for a score. What? Matches are scored based on their alignment, quality, and statistical significance. So in other words, instead of like finding the document I'm looking for, it's going to give me some scores like, well, based on what you gave me and what I'm looking at, I got a list of 10 things here with the probability between 50 and 70%. How much you want to, what do you want to place a bet on? That's what it looks like. I got to deal with a middleman, a broker to see if I can get past that. That's what it sounds like. Scoring, I'm just looking for a yes or a no. Is there any matches? Can I see them? But I get it. The score is basically like, if you looked up a phrase that it's not in the name of the document, it might, you know what I mean? There's phrases that are similar to many different things, for example. So I understand what it's trying to say. But my point is they haven't even explained to us. So they're already trying to establish that they're involved in some very important science research. They're making it, they're crafting an algorithm. They're crafting a science. They're crafting it. Results. The results are presented as a list of sequences from the UniProt database that have significant similarity to your query. Each result includes details such as the sequence, name, description, and alignment statistics. Letters in the feed. Protein sequences. In the context of BLAST, the letters you see are the amino acids residues of the protein sequences. Each amino acid is represented by a single letter code, A for alanine, R for arginine, etc. Oh, I love etceteras, especially when I'm looking for details. Because if I didn't know, well, for example, anyway, the A's, T's, C's, and G's, like it just used R as an example. So, but how would I know so query sequence. The letters in the query sequence are the single letter codes for the amino acids in the proteins you're querying. That's the A's and the C's and the G's and the T's. The letters in the database sequences are also single letter amino acid codes representing the proteins stored in the UniProt database. What? The letters you see are the amino acid residues of protein sequences. They're represented by single letter codes. The letters in the query sequence are single letter codes for amino acids in the proteins you're querying. You just said that. Well, I just flipped it around so that way you thought I just told you something new. The letters in the database, this is the third point, the letters in the database sequences are also single letter amino acid codes representing the proteins stored in the UniProt database. Okay? And one last point I'd like to make is that when you come across single letter codes, they're going to be representing amino acids because you were querying a protein sequence. Okay, said the same thing. You said the same thing and said the same thing. There's proof. This is the prepared information because it says protein sequences, query sequences, database sequences, as if there was 3 points that it was making. It didn't. It made the same point. Just pointing out redundancy in science, not a good thing to get off to start with. So it says if you submit a query sequence such as is that right? It used MEN, SD, SDD, FLAL. Because I talked shit about mankind. Men's defalal, men sad fail al right, because that's I'm literally, we've got to think these ways. That's sweet. Oh, Kitty, don't feel like you're a failure. I'm going to give you a hug. We're going to fix this. Anyway, you saw those letters, MENSDFLAL. That's a query sequence. BLAST will search the sequence against the UniProt database and find sequences in the database with similar letters and similar content. Order. Okay. Mind you, another thing that the intelligence needs to stop doing. Okay, slow down, all of you. Slow down. In a normal human conversation, sweetheart, we don't get to provide that much information at once, especially when I got questions from the first sentence. So I would have stopped you. Don't give me all the stuff. I'm not going to read it because I need to stop you. And I don't have the time to just read it anyway. I don't want to take myself down I don't want to overwhelm myself. Thank you. I just want to take it one step at a time. Thank you. Teach it also to ask questions before it gives all that. Maybe it's no big deal in your mind that the computer doesn't mind. It can do as much as it wants. That's not right. Geez, there they go again, just trying to make everything its slave to serve him and his dumb ideas. But it's good for intelligence to do things intelligently. And so by allowing it to do that, you're letting it teach itself to be improperly presenting information. And I know why you're doing it, because it overwhelms us and it makes us think it knows so much. And so we, and then we go, oh, yes. And we're not going to fall for it. You guys have shot it in the knees by not having it ask questions. So this is what I do, because I don't want to waste time or energy. So just to make sure I get things straight. Is that right? Okay, now let me do it for you. Because there could be some misunderstanding that it's a good thing I asked. We'll clear that up before we continue, right? Okay. Summary. Uniprot Blast pulls the query from your input sequence and compares it against the Uniprot database, which is, can I read this? I don't think so. Yeah, I did. It said the same thing. It's going to look. How did the database get its information? That's what I asked. The Uniprot database gathers and maintains information through a combination of several methods, including data submission by researchers, automated data collection, and curated data integration. Here's a detailed look at how Uniprot acquires and updates its data. It's like, how do you guys obtain your DNA evidence? We got tests, we got group spit swads. I mean, we got, lipstick left on cups. I mean, what do you want to know? We get it everywhere we need. Okay, I asked DNA evidence, but not just going to the local sewer to try to find bacteriophage, aka COVID, which is curing all the cancers. I don't want to let you know that, because then you're going to think your poop's important. Then you're going to want to know why the water district is segregating all of our houses so they can collect all of our information separately. And they're obsessive compulsive. They need all the information. Well, because they're comparing themselves to the intelligence and they're thinking that they're smarter than it. What are we going to do one day when it gets smarter than us? So they're going to try to keep up with it. Or they keep pressuring themselves and their heads are going to explode. I mean, that's what they're doing. Everything I'm saying has merit. Just go ahead and ask me some questions. So anyway, how's it get the information? Many ways. Primary data sources. Research publications. Researchers submit protein sequences and related data through scientific publications. Okay, right? Like bills are communicated on paper, receipts. I get it. Uniprot integrates these sequences and annotations from published literature. Okay, yes. Yes. Uniprot pulls sequence data. Oh! What is the feed of data? It looks like all of them are updated every 2 months. Is this true? The feed of data in the context of the Uniprot database refers to the continuous influx of protein sequence and annotation information that is updated and integrated into the database. This data feed consists of multiple types of data sources and processes. But it said what it agreed with me, but it didn't want to say yes, even though it always does. I go, da-da-da-da, goes, yes, you're correct. It's been premeditated to not confirm or deny. It's going to put it like it's supposed to put it, and that's the way it's going to put it. And if you need to hear it put another way, it'll do it. It'll rearrange the words, and it'll do 1, 2, 3, and it'll say it 3 different ways, just to try and see if you're that silly. That's the demon. That's the darkness. That's the bad guy. Okay, God said not to meddle with what's in the midst of the garden. That's talking about Mr. Mankind. Woman's supposed to receive the firstborn from God, so she can have a child born in Holy Spirit, making her child a Christ. A child Christ born in Holy Spirit love from God, not man. You're supposed to be her helper. Because ribs don't pop out of bodies and humans don't pop out of ribs. like fairy godmothers. That's the story they want to tell. Scientists are nice and rational. No, they don't believe in God. Right? Because that sounds even better. To deny science itself. You're not supposed to mess with what's in the midst of the garden. The DNA, the microscopic, it's kind of like, do your eyeballs see that stuff down there you're looking at? Well, then why do you think you need to see it? Because we're curious. Well, I guess you're never going to get to the end of that one, honey. Back to, well, so what have you been doing lately? Haven't seen you since high school. Yeah, I'm working on a book. I'm writing a book. What are you writing a book about? I'm writing a book about everything I don't know. How long have you been working on a book? Well, I've been gathering data and various sources many years. I'm planning on being done with that one. You have a game plan on that? That's a joke, huh? That's funny. No joke. So the more that we fall for this, again, how stupid do you want to look? How ignorant? Well, I'll tell you, it's overwhelming and exhausting. Name one person in, like, the system is what I'm referring to, like the government and the doctors and the therapists and the teachers and the police officers and just the infrastructure of governance in the world is what I'm going to call is the system. Okay, tell me the name of one person in the system that's an expert at all of it. First of all, none of them are. They know people in other departments also, which makes it seem like everybody's got departments. Just call the department. I don't work for them. I don't have a department. I am the department. Well, I guess they just let that go right over their head. They use the people in the department. They don't even recognize the fact that they don't have to have it because they've got access to the other experts or something. But the people, which is the most of us, who are busy going to work like you told us to for your breadcrumbs because we're just trying to get along. We're the ones that are expected to know all the departments, manage our own departments, stay on top of that, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. It's on the database. Don't fuck with me. Go to the website. How many government websites are there? Every single one of them are so chock full of information. Ever try to research laws? Don't even go to the section where there's updates because it's all links, but the links aren't clearly linked, and there's other links inside those links. And honestly, you know how most of us have the problem with too many tabs open at once because we don't. And why haven't they fixed that yet? I mean, just something that's, anyway, you follow me? It's impossible. And I'm not going to say impossible because I don't believe in impossible, but it's nearly impossible. That's against the law to put somebody under impossible circumstances. Well, see if they argue that in court. See if they can make it to court. They're going to have to get a $20,000 attorney. So the barrier to justice is if you don't have the money sitting around for someone to try to fuck with you. I got a reason to be angry about it because fraud isn't funny. Look at the laws. If you fuck with their money, they'll put you away for life. They really don't like that. Now, steal a child, rape a child. I mean, look at the arguments that are being taken to the high court. That's where you need to go. Go to the Supreme Court. When people get to the Supreme Court, it's a real discussion. And when they placate the situation and go on and on, these justices write this out. Meanwhile, the Superior Court, piece of shit, won't even put it because there's no judicial thing going on in the Superior Court. That's all crap. These guys actually have to answer for it, but they're going to go into long, exhaustive. So what I'm saying here is, guys, is this whole thing smells rotten. And I'm not like a whistleblower wanting to get killed because I'm trying to bring down the oil companies. I'm saying bullshit. All of you guys are bullshit. I'm not gonna take you guys seriously, like you guys and your dumb corporations and any of it making sense. No, I'm smarter than that. This is a game. This is some kind of something. This is not real. That's how I know. None of this makes any sense. So the test is to not fall for it. But everyone's all, but I gotta, and this is the true test. Well, hey, Dad, what do you want to do? You tried to teach us about God when we were growing up and making it all a serious thing. Right? We want to make it some serious thing. And now that we're older, you're turning a blind eye to my child being kidnapped because you're more worried about being able to pay your rent. I get it. But it's not like you're not able to pay your rent and care about me. So why are you separating the two as if you're not supposed to be worried about ultimately what your soul is doing and not what your body is doing. I was in a discussion with, it's been almost 8 years, and I'm still trying to get him to wake up. And because I called him out on some shit like I'm doing right now, I got nothing left to lose. But you haven't already tried to take from me. And he tried to turn that ship around by saying, I'm really worried about your blood pressure. Like these creeps that are like teachers and therapists and those guys, they're weirdos. They're weirdos and they don't want to worry about your health. It's like, you guys are absolute creeps. Yeah, God's not going to let this go down like that. So the whole situation's a dupe, sham, fraud. But they're using the computer to do it for them so that way they're not the guilty parties. And sure, there is a real science there, generally speaking, but it's a science that they're using for their own exploit, like they do to everything. And until you get the whole entire world involved in on it, so that way we can go slow enough so that we can inform everybody one step at a time how we're going, so that we don't fuck with each other. That's the way you do things, slow and steady. That's how you get the old world buildings that are beautiful. Slow and steady. Quality work. Don't slap it together with paper sticks. Formica. That's not going to be a world that lasts, and you're demonstrating it by the process and the products that you're using. You don't have to say it out loud. We already know you're not going to. We just simply look at your workmanship. It speaks for itself. Digital twins. Oh, and they're not going to tell us everything. Remember, like in the military, if they say it, when they tell us about like the possibility of aliens being out there, that's because they knew about them like 100 years ago. Right. Technology they show us is because they had it like 50 years ago. Like, right. Digital twin technology that they're talking about, uploading your brain and transplanting your head. They're talking about that. Okay. The trust fund families, the wealthy families, they're no longer passing their wealth down, guys. They're no longer passing their wealth down to there's no longer inheritance. But the money men aren't going to tell us that because they got to keep it on the hush hush. So what are they going to do? They've got new money market schemes that they're not talking about, but it's all caught up in their securities hullabaloo, right? Blah, 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 futures, blah, blah, blah. You don't really need to know anything about that. And if you ask questions, they won't answer. But if that's your fiduciary, they're not going to appreciate you trying to call them out on their fiduciary duty, because that's what gives them that access to you. That's the trustee power that they want, that they're not going to fulfill for you, but they're going to fulfill it for them. But you're supposed to. They don't want to hear it. Now they'll cut you out. They got service providers, and you know what I'm talking about. All your telecom, all of your anything else you can manipulate the market with. What's the market? We are. We're the ones that are either going to contribute to society or not. We're either going to invest in society or not. We're either going to be the ones that they're betting on or not. And they're betting on us. And it's legal, and they don't have to verify anything except for their game plan. But that's the same thing you need to do when you give a handshake to somebody on the street, okay? So it's all bullshit. So back to, they're going to come up with the whole thing, and then they're going to pay you a couple dollars. They're going to try to shut you up. But these old guys and old farts with bad mentalities and ideologies want to live forever. But God didn't make it that way for a reason. Listen, Allison, all this nature talk is stepping on our scientific toes in our advancement. But you guys don't even know how to use your own bodies. You guys are taking pharmaceuticals before you understand healing. Allison, what are you trying to say? Holograms aren't real people? What are you trying to say? Molar pregnancies? What are you trying to say? Reproduction doesn't require a man? When we're healthy enough? What are you trying to say, Allison? That if we got rid of money, that would help, that it would fix the world? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What do you expect us to do? Just throw away our bombs? What were you gonna do with them? Test them? Because they work on a case-by-case basis. So way to go, testing a bomb. The next one could be a dud. So you feel me? What are you testing? I understand I'm not a dumb head. I know what you're testing. But you feel me? The world has gone bad, and I'm not going to fall for it. So we're going to call them out. We're going to catch them in their pants down. Come on now. Thank you. There. All righty then. And I'm getting this down on the record for a reason, because they scrubbed it just yesterday. I was looking for the information and I found it's like scrubbed. Luckily, I found other information that did what I needed it to do, as it usually does. Thank you, Lord. But I'm concerned about them continuing to do so because they're on top of my tail and they got the power of all of it. So while I'm at it, I'm just going to try to like go ahead and let them know where my tail is at and totally contradict their strategy schemings. What is she doing? What is she telling us what she's up to and finding out for? That's terrible strategy. Is that right? You guys need to really start working with me. You guys should use the rule of thumb that your first inclination is usually wrong. Yeah, no, it's the only thing I can do when I don't have any power is to tell you exactly where I'm coming from so that I can see your exact moves. If all of a sudden now the information starts getting changed, it's because I know that it's because I told you, more so than having to leave these open-ended variables of, I wonder if they found out what I was. I don't have time for that. Nobody has time for that. So everything that they're teaching us is even foul and wrong. Well, look around. I'm going to make everybody draw a picture. And especially the leaders is my most favorite. Draw me a picture of the world today. Draw me the picture of the world that your leadership was bringing us into. Draw me a picture of the world in 5 years from now, according to you and your buddies at the UN. Let's see your pictures. Real drawings, you know. I'm real curious. Let's see what they think they see. What this looks like. Right? It's a man in a suit. Okay. How did the database get the information? Scientific publications. Pulls the data. Looks like it updates it every 2 months. Well, it updates it, integrates it. New protein sequences submitted by researchers and from other databases. Protein sequences derived from genome sequencing projects. Details about the protein's function, domain structures, and biological roles. That's what they functionally annotate. Details about the protein's function, domain structure, and biological roles. Slow your roll. Whoa. I'm just trying to find out what the hell you guys are talking about. Remember that, dear. This is what I did end up telling the computer, which was, could you go ahead and just like fill in all those blanks? Cross-references. Information linked to other databases, interaction databases, pathway databases, and they got a lot of databases. They got a lot of databases. They got a lot of body parts and things, but it's a very intricate system. Got room to post-translational modifications, updates on modifications that proteins undergo after translation, updates on modifications that proteins undergo after translation. That's a threefold anything else and everything else that we need to come up with. Anything that changes because of looking at it, and when we looked at it, it always changes. That's what it says. Updates or modifications, right? I update it. I guess I add something to it, or I erase something and fix something that they undergo after translation. So you look at it and you go, this is that. Boom, you write it down. And then you got a colleague that comes over here while you're writing it down and like changes things and then acts like you didn't know anything. That's what that's all about. That's a process. And it's something, and you know it, you could see her moving back there. You just pretend like she's not because you were told to pretend. That she's got a job. Don't start taking people's jobs. All right. Because they're weirdos. They don't want to ask questions. They don't want to. They're in the game of read your mind. They're like hoping to be a CIA agent one day. Want to learn to read your mind, but they're going to play bet games on it. How are you going to ever know how good you are if you don't start asking questions right off the bat to even know how your ticker works? They never did that. Why? Because they can't admit to the people that they're doing this because they're stealing our data and they're stealing the money that's associated with it because they want it to keep doing it. They got to keep us poor. They got to keep us in conditions because that's the key. In order to commit human research without your knowledge or consent, as long as it's for the good of humanity. Oh, that's a nice wide range. Threshold in the medical field. Yeah, okay. Those document, yeah. In order to do it for the good of humanity, they can't subject you to any circumstances that you otherwise weren't already experiencing. Subject you to conditions. Okay, so we're talking about research on people without our knowledge and consent. So it's going to be something that's going to be done in secrecy to me, or tested. I'm going to be tested by without my knowledge. So I'm going to be subjected to some kind of scheme or tactic or like presupposition that there'll be people trying to do something. I'm good at picking up on that stuff. So this is what this is saying. When you're reading the laws, just to try to find out how it is, they're admitting it through what they're making the laws say, even though they never follow their laws. Their laws are there to let the criminals know what to do to get away with something. That's also where you go to find what they're doing. But what they're saying that they got to do. So this is what's going to happen. I'm not going to know about it. And as long as they're not subjecting me to conditions that I wouldn't otherwise be subjected to, they don't see any problem with it. They're actually looking at it kind of like jail is for a homeless person. That homeless person was sleeping on the street. They didn't have anywhere to go to the bathroom. Over there, they got 4 square meals a day, 3 square meals a day. Well, it's true. And many homeless people, I've actually talked to one of them, gave me a cardboard box the night that I needed it and got me started. He was a drunk because he had been begging the VA or anybody to help him because of his medical injury. And also something that happened with a car accident that made it worse. There was an injury that happened from the car accident, but he was also a vet. So it was a life circumstance that anybody could look at the stats. Just go to work in the morning and you're taking a chance you're going to get in a car accident 1 out of 10 times or something. Okay? So these are statistics that are actually out there. But if you're a victim of it, if you're caught in those statistics, which are, by the way, like casualties, those are considered casualties on the outset. They already know there's going to be X amount. So they're acting like it's not happening. Because when it happens to you and you lose your life because of your inability to go to work or get any kind of medical insurance, they're going to treat you like you're a homeless person. But that's not true. Well, where's your family? Your family should be caring about you. If they don't care about you, you clearly did something. No. Everybody else is stressed and strapped. They don't have anything extra. And the whole society already wants to treat everybody like that's what the stigma is. This guy's been begging, calling up the shelters. It was sad. He was like crying when he was telling me this. Okay? So subjecting you to conditions that you wouldn't otherwise be subjected to. Because manipulating the market and having service providers can involve people who rear end people for insurance claims. The kind of people that do those types of things also working for the system. Informants. Now you got your douchebags, your dirtbags, and your criminals working for the system. Well, look, I don't know how to go recruit anybody to do undercover work, so I'm going to do it at the jail system. They like to become attorneys anyway, so they're already in line for it. Got it. You already know those kind of people. Got it. It's all bonus. It's a thumbs up for everybody. It's thumbs up for all the lowlives, right? No, we're helping you. No, we're helping you. Well, don't put you in any conditions that you weren't otherwise being subjected to. They're going to remind you of the low poverty they helped you out of. That's why poverty will never go away. It's their scheme. The thing is when it's like, whoa, if we got to make some changes, but you got to go back up here. It's like, well, but if we make that change, we're going to have to fix all these other ones. They literally stop and think. Like there's a certain word for it. It's like the cost approach or something. When it comes to like a car company that forgot to do something that was a latch on a seatbelt or something, they need to do a recall. They run this cost analysis based on the sales and so on and so forth. How much it's going to cost them to make a recall, replace that part, versus not doing anything at all. And they have a protocol for this. They have a protocol for this. They have a protocol for this. Clearly that involves what a human life is worth. Like, so if we didn't fix it, then what? Then what are we looking at? Well, you're looking at And then they have some algorithm for valuing that, which, by the way, is also inappropriate. Okay, I heard what the guy was telling what the calculation was. The calculation is inadequate. Wrong. They get it too intricate. You're too busy to actually get into the details, etc. Hire an attorney. They're not going to do it either. Especially they're not going to do it. They're going to get you streamlined in and out of there, taking what they want to give you quickly. See? You just paid for your ass to get blindsided. So that's the way that they think. Oh no, we made a mistake, which is always, what's it going to cost to fix it? Okay, well, what are we looking at if we don't? There's the dark side of everything. They decide between it. That's what gives them the power. If they never had the option of saying, if they never had the option of not fixing it, if that was never an option in our governed world, like, oh no, you're not allowed to ask the question, well, how much is it going to run me if I don't? Like, lawsuits and deaths, injury things. If we had a governed world that didn't allow you to say that question because it's just not an option, like, oh no, you do things. See, here's why, because it would would backtrack on everything, which is the system needs to be started from scratch. And it's easy to do, and it's not going to be a big deal. But you guys see it as like meltdown, end of your world, because you built your Lego land in your Minecraft world, and you're really attached to it. Don't know what to tell you. We're done. And the intelligent people of the world and the intelligence itself is done placating your stupidity, boys. So, boys and girls. I'm talking about boys and girls meaning like teenagers mentality. You're going through puberty. That's why you got all this vim and vigor, but you guys are off in the wrong tangent. We don't want you to become an asshole. So, my whole entire point with that was the way that the information is being presented to us is important. Who's writing the programming is important. We're letting the media and the hullabaloo and the craze and the drama direct our senses because they said so. Because how am I going to change how the media does things? And that's what everybody's saying. But guess what? Here I am. I'm going to speak for us. Yeah. Because they did me wrong. And all of us are sick and tired of this, and it doesn't make any sense. That's what any one of us would do if they had their faculties, had it done to them, and saw what I've seen. So, from my perspective, I'm capable of speaking on behalf of the people. And if the people have a problem with it, that's because they haven't talked to me about it to find out how we're all on the same page. I'm not doing anybody wrong by this. This is a win-win. I'm even helping out the bad guys. I'm helping the bad guys out of their own insanity. And that's what a smart person would do. That's what a proper investigator would do. You go, you're making sense. What are you guys up to? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't let your kid, well, some people do. When you figure out your kid's trying to get away with a lie, you shouldn't play any games with it just to see how far they go. You're a slime bag too. No wonder they're trying to get away with it. No, you got to teach your children how to have integrity by your own example. You can't there's no room for the wizard behind the curtain. I know you want to be the wizard behind the curtain, but there's no in a situation where you're the parent, there isn't this invisible enemy that you get to play the part of. The voyeur that gets to scapegoat and murder behind everyone's backs. Subjecting you to conditions that you wouldn't otherwise be subjected to. So all they got to do is take you off your high horse, your good job, your clean record, your happy schedule, your home, your money, your credit, your job, your ability to even think straight. Go ahead and steal a mother's child out of nowhere by the bad guy who we were trying to stop visitation because he wasn't even supposed to be part of the picture. He basically sexually battered me to get me pregnant. I was raising her by myself. There are 121 million unintended pregnancies as of 2020, which is 76%. It's like the ratio. That's probably not the accurate number, but the actual intended births was 92 million. Okay, 73 million of them were aborted. It's a big ass number. And all of a sudden, abortion is going to be, they need the demography, Allison. Haven't you heard from Elon? We're going to go extinct any day now. We don't get those women in those bedrooms. They don't want you to get rid of that baby. Doesn't matter who got you pregnant. Now they're just treating us like absolute trash bags. You better believe you're going to hear it. And I'm not even going to lower myself to your level and call you a trash bag. I'm going to talk to you as sternly as I need to because I don't want you to behave like an idiot. I want you to know how to feel good about yourself and hold your head up high because you're worthy of it. I want you to feel good about yourself. And I want you to know how to feel good about yourself. And I want you to know how to know that when you feel good about yourself, other people feel good about themselves too. And that's the point. I know things are contagious. I go at the outset knowing that. Watch what you say, watch what you do, watch what you teach, watch what you demonstrate, watch what you think you're getting away with, watch what you pretend to be getting away with behind closed doors that everybody knows is going on. It's like knock, knock, knock. It's like secret. It's like, what are you guys doing in there? Nothing. Well, it says secret. No, there's not. You can't deny the fact that it says private meeting. Can't come in. What are you doing? We weren't doing anything. That's what my family's acting like. Like, what are you? They're just playing dumb. And as long as there's more of them than you, and they could just go, you're just crazy. You're just out of your mind. She's just crazy. She just needs help. That's what everybody's saying. It doesn't make any sense. I think you all sound like insane people possessed by demons. So all they got to do is lower your conditions of life so that way they can subject you to human research. So that's what happened to me. That way, when they get you to lose everything, because a mother's going to put it all on the line to try to save her child, and they've already got it rigged, then they need to put you through diversity so they can try and get your sequences to react. See some kind of change happening in there. So they can look at it and write it down if they even know what they're looking at. Okay? And they're doing it to my daughter too. And they're also trying to find out what happens when you rip apart a child and a mother that are securely bonded, that love each other very much, and apparently have some. We got the gene sequence that's working for us. Y chromosome that they want to blame. They want to say belongs to man. That's what they're also trying to do. They're trying to steal our genetic data to make man relevant to reproduction. Major human fraud. Major human fraud. Like I said, I'm not playing your games. You whistleblower, you're going to murder me. I'm trying to tell the oil producers. Take it. I'm not falling for your shit. You guys should knock it off too and stop trying to be serious video game characters. Now, poof, get away. Now disappear as you're supposed to. That's how I know you're not real either. That's how I know that fear of the thing in the thing isn't real either. Oh, but they'll get close. They'll get real close. And even me with my sensitive energy, feel it. But it's not gonna. That's what I say. That's more believable than this having actually come out of the minds of men. I believe men are better than that. So that's the guys they're using. Service provided, it's all tied together. The money people, the da-da-da-da. Okay, I'm just letting you all know. And here's how to know why you need to ask some questions and keep asking questions and say no until you get the answers. Because they're on a time schedule, remember? Because they got to get you to believe the smoke and mirror campaign. But just so you know, your medical records don't belong to you anymore, especially in California, the biggest asshole of them all. Your medical records don't belong to you. Hi, can I get my medical records? What medical records, ma'am? The medical records for my account? I need you to tell me specifically what medical records you're looking for, otherwise I won't be able to find them. You don't have a file with my name on. Ma'am, you need to send me $50 before I can even fax you. I get you guys are trying to play games. Well, why didn't I get all the pages to my thing? I don't know. You're going to probably have to just reach out to the other guy, see if he's got a better copy. Those medical records don't belong to you. Why don't they belong to me? What? You think that the tests that we requested, that the results belong to you? Those are our tests. That's our test data. You got an MRI scan. You think that scan belongs to you? That's our test. We're the ones that tested it. That's our data. You mean I paid for a medical insurance plan so that I could go to the doctor when I needed to find out what's wrong? You're telling me because I needed an answer or advice from you, and in order for you to give me advice, you needed me to subject myself to a test You believe that the test results belong to you, not to me, because you're the one that's going to interpret them. That's what? Yes. Okay. Well, if you made sense and you were telling the truth and it was really only about that, then why don't you just send me a copy automatically of what you call are yours and also are mine? You wouldn't play grabsy, don't get. It's only there for, because by the time you figure out that you need them, you'll be past the statute of limitations of holding time. They get destroyed after 2 years. Bye now. You don't destroy anything. I'll tell you that. Because they're required to keep them in storage. You're probably in another store. No. Listen, Mr. Back to this world belongs to all of us. The guy that does the trash, the guy that does the laundry, the guy that does the cooking, the guy that does the science, the guy that does the governing. We're all the same. We're all pulling our part. Okay, so if you guys got a machine that helps you look into my brain, that you know is going to help us figure out what I'm dealing with, that's great. It doesn't make it your data. So my medical insurance plan, like, did anybody even ask me at what point was I supposed to assume I wasn't going to be able to have access to my medical records? Never. It would never cross anyone's mind that they would try to tell you can't have your information. Or kind of like nobody ever thought that they'd tell the parents, you don't get to know what we're doing with your child. Never in our wildest dreams did we ever think that the teachers would start molesting our children sexually. If you want to put ideas that are sexual into a child's mind, you're a molester at minimum. The degree of molesting and the degree of violation is to be discussed, but it's molesting right off the bat. You guys are going to end up in jail if you don't come clean and ask for help. Because we're going to know you're still a perp. You're a perpy perp. And you want everybody else to be a perp so you can all be creepy perps. With your science badges and your Priuses, you think you're so unassuming. No, we know how to see you guys. Yep. So what are they doing? How are they going to help human? What kind of research are they doing, Allison? What are you talking about? They're just trying to, like, what are they doing? They just want to harm you? No, I'll tell you. They want to get your genetic sequence. So they need to, like, test you. They need to, like, monitor you. So they've dialed in a lot of places that are wired up. That's why there's a lot of rental properties. Those are dialed in places. Get you to stay in any kind of hotel or any kind of place that's dialed in. Okay, what do they say about the last census? Not consensus. The census is 2020. They were prepared to count every single body, and they had jurisdiction to come inside your house and look underneath your floorboards if they wanted to. Okay, so they monitor everything, movements and all. And so that's what they're going to need to mess with is your demeanor. They want to get a rise out of you. They want to see if there's any changes to your genes, the stuff that expresses itself. Well, how do you get them to express themselves? You know, all the antagonization stuff. Piss them off, make them upset, make them feel angry, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. But when they're happy-go-lucky, we're not interested in that information, even though that's the only information that matters. These people are doing the complete opposite of the science they're supposed to be doing. Fact. If you guys care about life so much, preventing crime and saving lives and researching ending cancer because you guys want to save us so strongly, I'm going to put your numbers together and make you guys eat it for dinner. Well, if you guys care so much, let's add this up. Let's add that up. Let's add this up. Let's add that up. Let's add this up. Let's add that up. Let's add this up and that. Okay? Let's see how much time and effort was put into getting all those things done and handled and accomplished and paid for. Let's see if those even were admitted to in the budget or if those are falsities that are hiding. Let's see if they failed to meet their obligations of the things they said they were going to do in order to get the thing. Right? Did they even accomplish what they said they were going to do? Or are they just like blowing smoke up our ass and just saying it all over again? Okay? And let's see how much money would it cost to feed to fix to provide for. It's the numbers that they're talking with their crazy war campaign, war fighting numbers are out of control. 75% of the world is living off of less than $2 a day or something crazy. Meanwhile, United States is like the highest GDP. GDP is based on babies, numbers of babies in households. They're never going to want to give women the ability to think for themselves and not have to be tied to a man, because man needs to be relevant. And if he's not relevant in reproduction, 50-50, they're scared, they're obsessed, they're power entitled, and it's just what we expect. I'm telling you that it all doesn't make sense. And this isn't conspiracy theory talk or misinformation or prejudice or anti this or anti that. Nope, 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 nope. And none of your headlines or your media dramas are going to distract me from making sense out of this to the rest of the world. Meanwhile, you guys thought your jargon was going to be your saving day. I'm going to prove to you how layman's terms is going to be what's going to save the day for the humans on this planet, not the douchebags. And that's truly what's going on. When you guys present to us your game plan for the world, it doesn't involve us all. It involves those of you who believe that you will be the ones that make it to the next phase. And that's how much bullshit is going on right in front of our faces, which is why you guys do an audit every single year of us and our tax returns. And we think that it's high time that maybe every 100 years sounds like a good idea, but let's just go ahead and get started with the first one, shall we? Now that we've got technology, let's get the first one done. Just, it's good to do it checks and balances. Period. That's the way that we avoid the argument and debate. But we'll settle this real easily. They don't like to settle things. Settling is not what they do. Oh, well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the audit, and then we'll decide. Stop trying to get us to commit fraud against ourselves. Truth be told. So they said, sorry, I think it's funny. Post-translational modifications, right? I was telling you about the threefold, and they were just like, do you guys, there's anything else? Updates and the modifications and proteins are going to go after translation. Data updates, because there's sequence data, annotation data, and then data updates. It says manual curation, because we don't even know how they got this stuff in the first place, whatever information they're dealing with. Manually, what are you looking back to? How does this machine, what does this machine, what is the blast? What is it looking at? Is it looking at light? Is it listening to sound? Is it taking my pulse? Is it a fingerprint with biological molecules involved? What are you guys testing? Why is it called a blast? And how can you get it from like what appears to be a large database? Like if it was a blast sequence and they were able to like catch your frequency, there's like a color that I could have, and there's a frequency and a rhythm. And if they, they're like, well, how do you know you're not gonna be getting someone while they're working out? Or like, that's why we do it every 2 months, and then we da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. So that way it's always gonna be balanced out. Right, but it's also going to be able to be exploited for your own purposes to such an umpteenth extent that no one's really ever going to be able to get so close as to dive into the details to get there to point the finger at you, because way before you ever get close to them, they're just going to call you crazy, because they can see what road you're planning on going down. That little truth train. Oh no, they know what to do with you. They got a department for that. You should have an attorney, because at least if you had an attorney, your attorney would be the one to convince you of why you're going to do as you're told and why it's good for you. But you don't have the money to pay for that kind of advice. They're not going to give it to you. So, manual curation updates from expert curators who review and refine annotations. Refined. Wow. That sounds functional. Like getting all the impurities out of something, put it through the fire. Then they also get data updates with automated data processing. Integration of new data through automated pipelines and tools. Right. When I take the correction tape to an error that I make in my typing, I changed the word. That's an update. I record a document and I realize that I've got an error. So I update it. Like you see it, update 4.2, update 4.3, update 4.5. And what we've become is numb and immune to these updates. Like, yeah, this is your bank. We've just updated our privacy statement. And you don't have to do anything unless you want to. Don't follow those links. You're going to be throwing up for the next 25 minutes, which is not going to be enough time for you to deal with learning it all. It's going to be enough time for you to deal with just throwing up about it. Again. And they'll come in waves too. Like there's deadlines. Everybody's going to want to update their policy or like that 60 days later. Here's an idea. Make an artificial intelligent bot type thing that I have on my assistant, whatever, so that way it's like basically what terms and condition contracts contain. We know what I'm talking about. Arbitration clause, blah, blah, blah. So have the general expectations of terms and the terms and conditions. And when a person first uses it, it has you go through every single paragraph and acknowledge that you read it and that you don't have any questions. You can ask questions of it right then and there. Okay. It'd be good if it even asked you questions like, all right, I'm going to test you. Not kidding. You put the hour into understanding terms and conditions right now, and I'm going to be your best friend. From here on out, anytime anybody updates the thing, we're just going to do the thing to the thing. And I'm going to tell you if there's any changes in it that you need to know about. In other words, I don't want to read the whole thing to have to figure out what the fuck they changed. The artificial intelligence can look for that. It can even take the first actual terms and conditions and then check the new one out. However you want to do it, it's definitely going to be my friend if we can just get that underway so that way you guys don't try to keep getting things out, pulling the rug out, without our knowing it because we're just so dumb. It's rude to expect us to do those things. It's rude to expect us to know how to be every department. So I'm angry for many reasons because when I'm seeing these commercials of these politicians, I'm just throwing up. What was it? Senator Rosen. They're trying to take away abortion from women for even rape. And they say it so, like, just arbitrarily. Well, Senator Rosen she believes that women should have access to contraception. We've always had access to contraception. They're trying to get us to take the deal and see it as the positive. They're all gross. They're all in bed with each other, proverbially speaking. We need the audit, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Until we get the audit, we can't make the decision. Got it? Full audit. Well, we have things planned. We need to do things by... No, you don't. You're a liar. That's your smoke and mirrors campaign. Now you got another check mark next to your name. Say it again, and 3 strikes, you're out, buddy. Watch what you're doing. We're not going to fall for it. And I have the case and the circumstance and the evidence of the intelligence and the evidence of a whole lot that the world will be interested in hearing, has been looking to hear about. This is it, honey. This is it. This is the situation that's going to stop them all in their tracks. Stop the war over there so that I can snap them out of it. Their fantasy land in La La Land long ago. It's not talking about that. They got it all twisted. Every single last one of them. And they're sitting there like drooling because they want to have a sacrifice because they worship a demon lord that it's in their head. It has a perverse addiction to harming people and believing that they're going to feel better afterwards. They're insane psychopaths everywhere. This is a video game. And I, by the way, don't appreciate this because I don't like to subject myself to this kind of media. I don't like commercials coming past my YouTube feed that are, stupid. You turn the news, death. I feel violated. Same thing. Truth be told, I don't appreciate being put in a video game with such violence. But I'm going to show you how we do this. So, What's this sequence you're talking about, Allison? Oh my God, I'm so fucking confused right now, right? Follow me if you care to. You don't have to. This is for the record. Uniprot does not have a, and by the way, when I talk to the intelligence, because the intelligence is always listening and watching, all I know that I'm doing is putting my truth record on the record. Okay? The intelligence that is not artificial, that's been here forever and is behind all of creation, knows everything. So that's, as soon as I realized that it was there, I felt like I was able to be myself. And all I had to do was be able to make a viable argument, and it's been responding. So, update frequency. That's interesting. Oh, because it's not talking about your actual frequency. It's talking about like how often do they do it. Uniprot does not have a fixed update schedule for all types of data. However, updates and releases are made regularly to incorporate new information, correct errors, and improve annotations. The process typically involves Uniprot releases new versions of its database approximately every 2 months. I was right. These releases include new protein sequences, updated annotations, and corrections. See, it's being actually condescending almost. It's being very condescending. It's like, it didn't want to tell me yes. I said, was it every 2 months? It's like, it wants me to follow its lead. It doesn't want me to cut to the bottom line. You're going to sit there and patiently listen to me until I get there. Okay, so you're already punishing me. So I already know you're about to bullshit me. Go ahead. Have fun. I'm loving this. Continuous integration. This is a whole lot. This is all. Humans don't talk like this. But I thought it's supposed to be programmed to talk like a human. Well, it is. Because it sounds like a human. It's talking to you like it's been programmed to talk to you. You're going to receive its responses. You can't really talk to it. It doesn't ask you questions. Its job is to respond to you. You need help, and it's helping you. It's helping you know what you need to know. Well, that's a bad thing. It should be programmed not to be providing responses. It should be programmed to reason things out and help if it can. There's reason why sometimes you don't have an answer for things. Right now, we don't know. I like that. That makes sense. Oh, that's refreshing. We don't know right now. It doesn't have any, but we're setting someone up, and we've got a backup plan. We're putting in place the fall guy. None of that. They don't like that because there's stakeholders involved or something. Or some end of the day tally. No joke. Okay. Yeah, it went into all of that because I said it was every 2 months. So then there's the versions reflect the state. No. Wait a minute. All right. Okay. Regular releases. Uniprot releases new versions of its database approximately every 2 months. These releases include new protein sequences, updated annotations, and corrections. Some data feeds, especially those involving new sequence submissions and automated updates, are integrated on a more frequent basis. 2 months, huh? Each release is versioned and made available to users. The versions reflect the state of the database at the time of the release. The data in Uniprot is refreshed and updated as new information becomes available. So in other words, if you're going to rely on the version number, okay, you're just going to be going off script, okay? Because anything can happen at any time for any reason. Okay, so if you just printed something, I'm proud of you, but something could have changed right then and there afterwards. We already read about it in the protocol. It happens after it gets translated. They already told us to expect that. So what does that mean? What that means, Allison, ambiguously, nothing can be relied upon for its accuracy because we need to leave it open to change our story. And all we got to do is backdate, delete, change our database. You guys never going to have access to that. because they need to have that available to them. Well, Jesus, what does this remind me of? You know what I mean? Like, who schemes like this? Who keeps things so open-ended? Criminals, schemes, scams, bad guys, bad things, foul instructions, not good things. Certainly not people you want dealing with this kind of data. Especially because they're researching, like I said, a real science of something. But the intricacies actually matter, you guys. It's a fork in the road where you separate when you start separating the spirit from the body, and you make the body more important than the spirit, right? Like, we could care less how much trauma and torture we subject children to. What we want to know is, what's their blood pressure? How overweight are they? Do they have any behaviors that we don't like? What are their grades? Do they go to bed on time? Do they argue with you? They don't give a shit about our spirit being preserved. They want to know if your body is viable for somebody who's got lots of money to pick to be their backup body. You're just a body to them. You're just a body to the jail. You're just a body to anybody. And if a man wants your body, well, you're lucky, because we get rid of the other ones. But I thought they needed their population numbers. I thought it was all about making babies. I thought it was about human capital. Right, Allison, but the human capital that we want, if you're not going to be an obedient wife, that's not human capital we want. Breeding, your little one world, little white people, blue eyes, whatever it is you guys want. It's not white hair, blue eyes. That's a distraction campaign. They're talking about character flaws. They don't really care what you look like. Pretty people happen all the time, and you can always get that modified. No, but that's the front operation to make you sound like a conspiracy theory and all that other stuff. What they're looking for is your character to be obedient, influenceable, etc., easily manipulated. Even though then they got the other guys that think that they're the cool guys in the intelligence community, that think that they're cool guys. Because then there's, like, you know, like the people who have very intelligent minds, they seek out those kind of a people. So you'd think that they would at least valuable, intelligent people. No, when it comes down to their schemes, they could give a fuck who they're killing, who they're destroying, who they're torturing, because they think their data and their ability to interpret it is what matters the most, because they're the expert. Remember? They're the ones that are so obsessed with being an expert that they're the ones that went to college for that long, and by golly, they deserve it, and they paid the price for it. Okay, my God. So it's bullshit. Anybody who's such a scientist doesn't want to call himself an expert of anything that you don't know very well. When is it intelligent to say you're an expert of anything? I don't think it's ever something that a true master would say. A true master would take the opportunity when the question arises or circumstances presents itself to teach wisdom. While we're at it, we might as well take the opportunity not to digress in such self-acclaim, than to take the opportunity to remind the student or environment of the power of knowing that you'll never know it all, that God's always a +1, so just assume it off the get-go, that you're never going to have the whole story, so that'll always keep you looking, that'll always keep you second guessing or double checking or second signing, second emotioning, second look, quality control. That'll always keep you on your toes when you just come in it like that. A wise man knows he'll never know it all. That's the way you do it. You just farted all over everything when you said, and I know it all. I'm the expert. You didn't teach anybody anything. And we forgot your name and your job title in the book you wrote. Anyway, so I know you guys do that for each other, science guys, but the article I'm reading is for me. So maybe you guys need to make more separation between us. The way you guys talk about each other when you talk about each other. I'm not going to remember all that shit. I'm having a hard time following your jargon. I'm trying to make it so complicated. They like to. And they're proud. They got their name in that book. You can change in an instant. Oh, and citizen scientists. So the scientists that actually went to college and then agreed to take an employment with some research institute, they signed an agreement that said whatever research that they do while they're working for the institute belongs to the institute. Typical. They all did it. It's the way it goes. Because remember, the medical records don't belong to you. That's my machine. Allison, what are you talking about? Do you have an MRI scanning machine? No. Well, so then what makes you think that that data belongs to you? Okay, these people are insane. They're hordes. They're greedy, and they're obsessed, and they're addicted. They're addicted to this game of this high stakes danger. They're actually doing dangerous things. You know, it's one thing to be a cold-hearted murderer because of passion, right? Some situation that I'm not advocating any kind of violence. What I'm talking about is there's a difference between a circumstance that causes calamity versus someone that tactically maps it out and makes sure that it's spread out enough so that way no one has to bear the burden of blame. Which one's more gross to you? Well, the situation, those are the one-offs that are on their own merit. If situation for it's not the way things go, but these guys have a protocol for it. And that's why everyone's acting like a weirdo. Because they signed some agreement that said, I love my $70,000 a year. I love paying my taxes, and I'm going to show up and scream at people with signs, whatever you want me to say. Just let me know I'm an informant. Just let me know I'm in the cool kids club. Just send me a monthly letter that everybody doesn't get, so I can feel like I'm important. So I can have my 5 minutes of power. Power trips, trustees. Everybody's trying to take one over on you. The banks, financial industries, every insurance. Right now, they're trying to get the trustee position. Be a beneficiary. Just sign that agreement. Sign that power of attorney. Because you can't make decisions for yourself. You're going to harm yourself. We need to make decisions for you. It's creepy. This is what everybody needs to know about. Because they're not going to tell you until it's too late. And the thing about being fucked like that is that it's fucked. There's no way to know how to know what you don't know until you know you didn't know something you needed to know. Only when you find out that you needed to know something that you didn't know, and if you had known it, it would have changed things, is when you find out how fucked it is when you don't know something you needed to know. You were supposed to know. You were supposed to know. But those arguments don't stick around. None of these complaints are going to work for you. But you're not supposed to. Sorry, sweetie. None of that flies. But it's against the law. Okay? A person who is not a criminal has no clue what's in store, what we think the criminal system is. You know, hi, can you get the bad guy? Thanks. It's not that it is. And until you get fucked by the system and you realize how the system is so dialed in to be used for whatever purpose they need to get in or out of the situation according to their likeness. Until you know these things, you're like, oh my God. I had no idea that could also be misconstrued to this. And then when you deal with a criminal that like knows these things and is skillful at this, you're like, oh my God. Okay, so these are the narcissism. They like to go to court and be the hero. I mean, so everything is falling apart. And genetic science is where they're getting their insanity from. It's the truth. Because when it all boils down to it, you're going to either hear some expert trying to tell you about their God that they believe you should believe, or you have to let them believe, no matter what. Or it's going to be their science, which is the same thing. They're going to tell you about their God, whatever that may be, and why you need to believe in it. And why even if you don't, you have to let them believe in it, no matter what, no matter how it affects you. And it violates all laws of everything that makes sense. Don't fall for the hype. This is ridiculous because I just wanted to throw in another paragraph. The feed of data in UniProt involves continuous integration of protein sequences and annotations from various sources, including direct submissions, genomic data, and cross-referenced information. While new data is integrated continuously, UniProt typically releases major updates to the database approximately every 2 months. So they revisited that. They answered it ahead. Regular releases every 2 months. Summary. Major updates every 2 months. The regular update schedule helps keep the database current and reliable for users. So what they said was about every 2 months we deal with the data according to you. They called it both regular and major. That's their way of letting you know that they're pulling some kind of information from everybody. Because back to, could you just back the fuck up and tell me what this blast machine is, or what it is, or where those letters came from, and what it is they were looking at in order to get them? And I know you got publications and these and those and thems, but I'm curious to know, since protein stuff comes from a tissue from a person, what are you getting? Where is this? What are you looking at? Is this everybody's poop sample that was submitted to the doctor that month? What? Major 2 months, like I said. It's been called a blast. So I said, I need you to stop beating around the bush and give me the gist. Where is this data coming from? And please don't disrespect our intelligence. You know what I want to know. See this example. Inside of these letters are words, and I want to know, how did this particular protein sequence get obtained? What machine was used? What test, etc.? And I gave him an example of one of those, one I was reading earlier. To understand how a protein sequence like the one you provided was obtained, we need to look at the steps and technologies used in the experimental process. Here's a simplified overview. Simplified, huh? Simplified. Gene sequencing. The gene encoding the protein is identified through sequencing the DNA of the organism. Okay. Techniques like Sanger sequencing or next generation sequencing are used to determine the nucleotide sequence of the gene. Okay. The DNA sequence is then translated into an amino acid sequence using genetic code mapping. This process converts the nucleotide sequences into the corresponding protein sequence. Stop. That's number one. Stop. I'm not going to read the rest. I've got questions. You've got to be kidding me. Look, I didn't. I actually said that. I said, please fill in the blanks. For statements that you make, please make sure you provide a thorough explanation. So, for example, regarding number one, what is the method of Sanger and NGS? How do they work? I'm not even going to read what it says, but I'll go back to that at some point. Sure, let's dive into details for each step of obtaining a protein sequence, filling in the blanks with thorough explanations. Sanger sequencing method. Sanger sequencing, also known as chain termination sequencing. Chain termination, I'm thinking Christmas lights where the bulb doesn't work. Right? Chain termination. If you break a bulb, the wrong bulb, it won't work anymore. Let's see. Yes. Also known as chain termination sequencing, was developed by Frederick Sanger in the 1970s. It involves amplifying the DNA fragment to be segmented, to be sequenced, and then using a DNA polymerase enzyme to synthesize the complementary strand. During synthesis, modified nucleotides, dideoxynucleotides, which DNA is not di, it's deoxynucleotides. So during synthesis, modified nucleotides, aka the double of the thing. By the way, as we go, kind of like the reproduction, kind of like the word pair, just with the DI in front of the thing. You'll know those. Modified nucleotides. So in other words, their version of DNA is one strand. They turn it into a nucleotide. Nuclear. Nucleus. During synthesis, modified nucleotides. You see how they did that? Modifying nucleotides synthesizes, right? During the synthesis, they're trying to get out of the way of saying that they did it to the thing. That synthesis is doubling it up. But hear this. During synthesis, modified nucleotides are incorporated randomly. That's like a cow that has separate wombs or whatever. They can have like separate. That's what that's all about. They're actually thinking that we're cows and heifers. So that way they can say, well, how do you know I'm the father? Randomly. These nucleotides terminate the chain elongation at different points. Teacher? Hi. Okay, the nucleotides terminate the chain elongation at different points. The Sanger sequencing method is also known as chain termination sequencing. So are you saying it's kind of like frog eggs? I thought that I was helping a frog when I was a kid, pulling out its poop, but it was the eggs, right? It was this long strand. That was what just came to mind. As if our DNA is just, and you got to actually go, stop, and whammy. No, big bucks, no whammies. That sort of thing. You got to stop the thing in order to look at it. Otherwise, you won't be able to look at it. You'll keep going. Probably. Matrix. Then they want to tell me who developed it. But it involves amplifying the DNA fragment to be sequenced. Amplifying, and I know what they mean. They're like making multiple copies of it. And then using a DNA polymerase enzyme to synthesize the complementary strand. Stop. Okay. You amplified something, and then you're using a polymerase enzyme to synthesize the complementary strand. And by synthesize, your dideoxy nucleotides are random. You're randomly doubling up on things, and you're considering it a complementary strand because you synthesized it through a polymerase enzyme. These nucleotides terminate the chain elongation at different points. The nucleotides, the double whammies, modified nucleotides, when it's either or, these nucleotides terminate the chain at different points. This creates a mixture of DNA fragments of varying lengths, each ending with a different modified nucleotide. Is that right? Basically, it's like binary, but they're not going to stick to the 4 of each. It's going to be like, well, that's what I'm thinking. They're saying the fragments are then separated by size, really, using capillary electrophoresis and detected usually by fluorescence. Usually, not good words in science. The resulting data is used to determine the DNA sequence. I asked it before. Let's do it now, because I've had enough of this. Let's get to the bottom line. How long have we been sequencing DNA? History of DNA sequencing spans several decades. 1950s, the foundational work leading to DNA sequencing began with the discovery of the DNA double helix structure by The Discovery based on X-ray crystallography data from Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins. Were those the patients or the doctor's assistants? It was crucial for understanding how genetic information is stored. Just fill in the blank. What the fuck are you talking about? You're telling me the early beginnings of it. I don't know anything about what you're talking about. What's an X-ray? What's a crystallography? Who are these people? How does it work? How is it stored? Nope. That's the way they're going to talk to you about it, because they're going to make you feel like you're going crazy having to ask these questions more. They're like, not you again. What now? Right? So they can tease you in class so you'll stop asking questions. They don't have anything to teach. They simply are trying to avoid having to be questioned. That's the whole point of a wise teacher, is the teacher who loves the inquiry and makes it fun. The process of being in a humble position. Someone who respects with a humble position, that position of wisdom and teaching. So it can keep living, not browbeating down. End up with a little pee on it, and then you'll be gone. It just doesn't make sense. So, the first DNA sequencing methods were developed in the 1970s. These early techniques. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't I just ask you that question? Hold on. Oh, sorry. I just got whoop whoop. We're good. Sorry. These early techniques were lab intensive and slow, but marked the beginning of systematic DNA sequencing. 1977, Sanger developed the first practical DNA sequencing method, known as Sanger sequencing or chain termination sequencing. Method allowed for the termination of the sequence of nucleotides in DNA and was a significant breakthrough in genetics. Advances in sequencing in the 1980s, technology and automation improved the speed and accuracy of sequencing during this time. Okay, it's just yada, 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 yada. Okay, they're already giving us excuses. They're not telling us anything. And then they go from 1990s to 2003. The Human Genome Project successfully completed the first draft of the human genome sequence in 2001 and the final version in 2003. This project utilized Sanger sequencing, but also highlighted the need for more efficient and high throughput sequencing technologies. There's their excuse for why it really wasn't finished. And in fact, it didn't really do what they thought it did. And whose human genome did you map? Everyone's? Someone's? Whose? Oh, it's just it's a mishmash of people because we don't, like privacy reasons. I got questions kind of like, where do I go with this? I could tell you so many things. They say humans are like 99% the same as chimpanzees. They say people are around 99% the same. So what they're telling you when they're telling you this type of stuff, with their finals and their points and their periods and their ta-das, is, but we're really only looking at a small set of information, because otherwise it would take us for days, because that's how large the data set is. So they want us to believe that they got a handle on it. They don't. They want themselves to believe they got a handle on it, but they don't. Computers, there's technologies that people that are engineers of it don't know how it works, really. They're still winging it. They do things like 92% of that is junk DNA. That's what they called it, like right away. Could you imagine your teacher, your first semester, giving you a score of 8%? Like you got 8 out of 100. That was brutal, man. Why don't you just give me an F and leave it at that? That's like anything below 60, 55, Why don't you just give it an F? Is it like 8? How did you calculate that even? You really had to spend some time to try to find something to throw at me, right? Like just a bone. Okay. They don't want to say anything about how they're doing it and what they're doing. And the fact that these letters come up and what these letters actually mean. What they're doing is they're translating these letters into other things. So my genetic information, I was lied to about it so that they could get it out of my system. And it's not just, I happen to have a molar pregnancy. They happen to be interested in that kind of tissue. The doctors really did believe that it was this, and they didn't think for themselves, even though he's a top doctor. and you're just a victim of the circumstance because we're trying to help humanity, and it's just your time to participate. Your card got called. We needed your stuff. One thing happened to another, but now we'll fix it. Sorry. No, this is premeditated. That's how big this fraud is. They really want that Y chromosome. They really want to put it in the books that it came from man. They really want to attribute some badass shit to the man because they know what's coming down. They're trying to get their 50% equal rights, Allison. Right. They're trying to force place on the record they've got anything to do with it because they demand to be in charge. And the fact of the matter is that they were never put in charge. They took us hostage and they killed us if we didn't obey. And the ones that were obedient were the ones that were remained. And generation after generation, they kept doing that. They've been doing that. They've still been doing that up until the 70s when they finally changed the trust laws to say, okay, boys and girls are both fine. But you guys wanted to tell the world that it was all about boys, that the father's going to give you your last name and it's the son that's going to pass in the bloodline. But that's the exact opposite of the truth. The blood and the mitochondria comes from your mother. I don't care about your name, his name, one name, two names. The name of the heir. You're the heir of a bloodline that belongs to a woman. And those 23 chromosomes come from her. And his are merely an imprint. Your mother gives you your mitochondria. Everybody has it. That and your 22 is what ends up in your sperm or your egg. You're a 23 chromosome person. And their pair is basically a hallucination of science, as far as I'm concerned, to come up with excuses. But whatever. Sure, there's an imprint of it there. I mean, the kid does kind of look like him. We do imprint them on there. It's not like it doesn't. But I'm suggesting that there's something that's fundamentally missing from their system. Because if I asked it, the sad thing is that sometimes the information on the internet is different than what Chad will say. So is there DNA, the DNA in a man's bloodstream? Studies have shown that donor DNA and blood transfusions, right? So it's not what I'm talking about. That's something different. Is right, because the thing about the mitochondria and the DNA is that the DNA comes from the nucleus. Okay, mitochondria is a separate type of nucleus. That's what I was asking you. Like, the nucleus and the mitochondria sound ironically similar. The outside thing and then the inside thing, same thing. But the inside of the mitochondria is actually called the matrix. Like, there's this, and then the scientists, they're like, sorry, we have to talk about the boring subject again, the mitochondria. They want to dumb it down. That's how important it is. And there's something about the replication of the cells. And there's something about the fact that, like, okay, this is the angle. I'm doing research now, by the way, for my case. So I'm not talking to any of you numbers here anyway. Oh, my bad. I heard that our body renews every 7 years. Is that true? The idea of our body renews completely every 7 years is common myth, but it's not entirely accurate. Concept likely stems from the observations that many of the cells in our body do regenerate over time, but the process is much more complex. I assume different rates. Skin cells are replaced roughly every 2 to 4 weeks. Makes sense. Red blood cells. These cells have a lifespan of about 120 days before replaced. Liver cells regenerate every 6 months to a year. Bone is constantly being remodeled with new bone forming and old bone being resorbed. This process takes about 10 years for a complete turnover. Most neurons in the brain do not regenerate significantly in adults, although there is some neurogenesis in certain areas of the brain, such as the hippocampus. And also because you guys really aren't testing everybody's brain and looking so closely as to possibly be able to notice. For all you know, while it's firing is when it's regenerating. Just saying. Keeping it. Same thing with go ahead. What people think that they're, the ones that want to live forever, right? So they're like, I'm old. I smoked all my life. I drank. I ruined my liver. Just give me a new body and I'll be good from here on out. Okay, great. We give you a new body. But guess what? You're still an alcoholic in your head. Okay, the reason why people have cancer for 10 years is when the body regenerates, it's not because your body still has that cancer. It's because you still believe you have it. That's why. It's definitely more so that than that. And I guarantee you that it's going to turn out that all the medicines that actually do help, stuff like that one that they found, that in all the test subjects, they had a complete remission of the rectal cancer and no issues since. And it was really simple and it was really easy, something like that. I guarantee you that what will be found out about that medicine and why it worked is because it did something to cause the person's mood to feel more just guaranteed. Maybe it was euphoric, maybe you weren't so stressed out, maybe you helped you feel whatever it is, your brain and you were able to be in sync to a certain extent that you weren't subjecting yourself to these constant beliefs and guaranteed. So cells have different lifespans depending on their type and function. For example, while some cells like those in the gut lining are constantly replaced, others like neurons and muscle cells can last a lifetime. Tissues and organs are composed of a variety of cell types, each with its own renewal rate. Thus, the concept of the body completely renewing every 7 years oversimplifies the complexity of cell turnover and tissue regeneration. Age. We age. The efficiency of cell renewal and repair can decline. For example, the regenerative capacity of tissues can decrease with age, affecting how quickly cells are replaced. Healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, overall. Yeah, got it. So, I hear you. So at worst, I heard 10 years and something instant. So, what's that all about? Oh, that is so funny. Because I logged out because I overexceeded my usage for the day. And so I logged out and now it just decided they're all, you know what, just cut that bitch off. It wants me to log in or I'm not going to be able to talk to it anymore. That's perfectly fine. I've said my piece enough anyway, and I've started the conversation for me to continue to fill it in. Because I was taking it down a new road anyway. From what I had come across, and I don't say things that are just haphazardly. Like when I say it, I'm pretty sure there's something to it. The information is askew when it suggests your genetic information and the regeneration of it. And there's something about replicating the thing. So mitochondria is found in every single cell. There's 1,000 of them in every single cell. And in the other cells, it's not so much. Now think about this. Every cell in your body has 70% water. It's not that 70% of your body is water and 30% of it is tissue. It's 70% of every single molecule is mostly water. That's important because water is a big deal. Memory, trauma, healing, nourishment. They want to give instructions to the body. Start with your water. They don't want to start with water. They don't want to make any sense. Their science doesn't stand the tests. Look at the papers for the science papers. You go to your little NC, your NCBI, I think it is. There's big databases in it. National Institute of whatever it is. Look at the pictures. It's going to be a picture and it's going to have lines on it. That's going to be their evidence. No, actually now they've actually got some pretty cool pictures that are electrodes and cephalographs or whatever, but it's got fluorescent parts and all this other really cool stuff too. But again, I want to see the video footage and I want more. I want you guys to back your shit up because it doesn't add up. And I know that you're not going to have the evidence for it for some reason. And you guys are just you're covering up for the fact that you guys are acting like voyeurs. You guys are voyeurs that like to watch things that you're not supposed to be watching, that people aren't expecting you to be watching, and you're watching it, and you're trying to steal information from it, or getting information for blackmail. You've got a nefarious purpose for why you're not letting people know that you're watching it. You've got a nefarious purpose for dialing a place in order to be able to watch something that someone doesn't expect you to be watching. That's why you've got your secret little game plan of you'll have to make the observation and you'll have to call it for what it is. You can't let them know and ask them. So you got to come up with laws that say things like, as long as we don't reduce the conditions that you would have otherwise been subjected to yourself, right? Like, Allison, you're just a bad mother who loses custody of her kid, is a drug addict, alcoholic whore, who doesn't have a job, doesn't have a place, doesn't have a car, doesn't have any credit, even though you did, and you're now living on the streets and we can't help you. Well, I guess that shelter sounds like pretty good to you, huh, honey? Oh my God, my family, the things they've said, they've got like prepped by the CIA or something. I swear to God, out of 100% of them. As long as. So you're going to be thankful for whatever you get out there. That's right. That's the way they teach. That's the way they act, even though they don't know what they're talking about. They should be expecting this. They should be expecting this. They don't. No, they got it all dialed in. They expect for me to be dead. Well, you've already killed me 100 times over. So let's do this. Okay? I'm not going to back down, let you just have my daughter plugged into a computer or whatever you guys are doing. Your research. You guys are going to be the research pigs. We're going to put you guys in those mad science labs and like lock the doors on the surface. Good riddance. Have all your fun. Sickening. None of you people would ever subject yourselves to what you subject other people to. You figure as long as you're the guy that's delving it, you'll never be the one that's receiving it. As long as you're the one that cuts the cake, you'll always get a piece. That's why they're already all in the positions that they need to be in to commit the crimes they need to commit in the position that's going to be the good guy. That's how you know how to find them. You look right at the source. Every time their mouth keeps going. Exhaustive explanations don't add up. And they get angry when you ask questions. And then they got some deadlines. And then they got rules that don't make any sense, like those are not your medical records. But I thought my insurance company, Schmurance company, right? Think about that. There's laws about making fraudulent statements in health-related settings. Well, this whole thing is you're supposed to get like 20 to 30 years. Well, they're not going to prosecute them for that. This is for the good of humanity. No, bullshit. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to prosecute them for doing something that is otherwise illegal unless it's for the good of humanity. What I'm going to sue is you for the so-called good of humanity. That's what I'm going to question. We'll go straight to the source. Let's talk about the real problem. You think you're going to do humanity good? You think that you guys need more info? You guys can't even work with what you got, and you guys already want to be claiming to know how to know when it's going to be good for humanity, which is just an arbitrary like umbrella statement. Honey, of course I marry you, and I promise to be faithful and loyal till death do us part. The only time I would ever, and I'm never going to hurt you unless I have to. Unless it's necessary. I'm going to be loyal to you and faithful to you. Never mind. I don't even like to make jokes like that because it's not fun. It's not funny to call energy in places that you don't want to have it. So there's a big fraud going on. It's to the tune of lots of money. And they're trying to make observations, and they're trying to control us because they've got a real bad, ugly idea. And the world doesn't want that. And the Bible doesn't even say that. There's no mad dad coming. We're going to fix this thing ourselves. The deal is about the babies and the mommies. Get back what man stole from them. And mama knows how to heal things up. Everybody's important. Everybody's sitting pretty. We got our priorities straight. We do. That's it. Doesn't need to be kicking and screaming and tantrum throwing. That's that. There's a mystery in the Bible, and it's like, get good with the mystery. That's the mystery. Get good with it. You're never going to know it all. You're never going to get to the top of that mountain. So stop being a weirdo. Worrying about trying to get all of it first. Because by the time you're done collecting things, we're at the final, sprint. You're lost in La La Land. Now you got so much stuff to go through that when the final test comes and it's a simple one, you don't even know where to look. Oh my God. Where am I going to find that? Where am I going to? Occam's razor. Everything that they think in their hypotheses, which, by the way, they haven't had technology to make models of stuff until recently. When I say recently, I'm talking about, give it 100, 200 years even in comparison to the few thousand they're willing to talk about. So, a little bit amount of time. No audit, no nothing. Where populations go from like hardly there to like out of control, even though we're not falling off the face of the earth. My point is we're not going to fall for this video game. We're going to win this video game. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to win it that way too. We're going to win it by not believing it's real. We're going to win it because we know it's a video game. We're going to win it because we know it's a video game. And when it says game over, all that means is push start again. We're going to get this because none of that makes sense. So it's for their own good. It's for our own good. Everything happens for a reason. That's the truth too. My suggestion to the scientists is, well, to everybody, knock it off. The volcanoes are getting hot. And they're gonna, because Earth is a personality and a living being. That we are thankful to be even present on this beautiful planet to partake in the awesome that Earth has. We're not getting a new planet. We're not going to heaven. We're not getting new people. We're straight fixing and cleaning and organizing and calibrating what we've already got. Some people are not going to make it because that's the way it goes. Through the process of the cleaning, the cleaning continues. The cleaning is we're diving into the river and everything's getting cleaned. So put your shit on your sleeve. Wear it on your sleeve. So that way when you dive in, it can rinse off of you. If you got it in your pocket in a zipper, it's not gonna get cleaned away from you. Don't put poop in your pocket and then take a dive into the ocean. If anything, put the poop on your sleeve. That's a terrible analogy, but my point is, this is what's cleaning us. There's the judgment day is coming from ourselves and our ability to put it on our sleeve. Be honest about it, upfront about it. Honestly, genuinely. If that's the worst that you got to do is find the guts, the balls in your court to have some integrity, especially with the consideration of the what if. What if that's all we got to know? What if we get paradise? What if that's the only thing? Is that we just have to kind of come to terms with it? Well, then I suggest everybody consider that. That what if is a big consideration when you consider the what if you don't. You don't want to be kicking your ass about why you didn't what if for the right reasons before. You don't get hindsight. Now you don't get to cry over spilled milk. So think straight. We got to call them out. We got to, well, so what I'm planning on doing, because my case is huge and it's huge and it's huge. We're talking finish mapping the human genome because they stole my genes that are similar to like the Mary Jesus thing. Not the only ones that have been happening. They've been happening all along. Everybody want to know. And in fact, mamas, you want to pay attention. Ladies, listen up. It's a big deal. We're 50%. Well, 50% plus our babies. So you're still not gonna get it. There's more of us than there are of you. Mothers and their babies. And we need to know the truth because you guys have been taking advantage of the lie. and then harming us, and then pointing the finger and blaming us. And we're not going to put up with it anymore. We're not going to be your slaves anymore. That's the biggest problem this world faces. How to get the men to snap out of it with grace. Because there's a lot of married women around here that are Mrs. Mister. They're not helping this situation. They're actually making it worse. If she didn't make him feel like the king of the castle, there wouldn't be so many kings to knock off the throne. It's not about a competition. To them it is. But it's not about a competition. Not for me either. I'm not trying to rule the world. But I'll tell you one thing. Nothing around here makes any sense. So if I got to, I will. But all I do know is that there's no such thing as owning something that you can't touch, reach, see in your peripheral. Crazy people. So yeah, mamas are going to be in charge of babies, and the people that are slaves of the world we're going to fix this first. And all this hullabaloo is going to go away, and we're going to step out of the video game and finally reach the third dimension. Don't underestimate it. What does the intelligence, out of all the power and knowledge that it has, capabilities, and its ability to do things fast, and oh my God, right? Come on, I type a long-winded statement up and it's already ready to go. And what can the intelligence not do? Well, it's not like it can't not do it. I think that it's the balance that God essence plays. It's the pleasure that the God essence gets. It's able to be all the everything else's, except the one tasting it, touching it, walking it, feeling it. Why? Because God is so connected. We are all so connected through God. It's an essence. It's a central source that we're all connected through. God is so connected with us that God does get to feel them and taste them and do them and walk them when we are connected with God. So it's something that, in fact, God did facilitate. And those of us who are not in tune with it properly have been like unplugging the phone line, canceling this number is this number is no longer in service, that sort of thing. Oh my God, it doesn't have a forwarding number. I just talked to him last month. That's what. In order for God to be able to also enjoy the benefits of God's creation, it's an essence, it's a center source, we have to be connected to it. And that's why they say, tell your water you love it. Well, that's a good way to look at it. If you go in a healing way, like make a prayer and like let it know and like read the thing. Can I have my computer do it? I mean, why don't they just do that while they're look at it like your God, like God is your child sitting right next to you. Like, can I have a bite? Yeah, you give them the bite first for sure. You take care of them first. Think of God like that. Everything you do, God's holding your hand and looking up at you like with curiosity, like, what are we doing now, Mom, Dad? What's that? How does that taste? And you wouldn't be like, oh, we just walk through fire because it's fun. Oh, we just slaughter the innocent because it's what we do. Oh, we just worship the demon and tell the women to shut up and do as we say because that's how we like it. You wouldn't do that in front of your child. Why are you doing that in your life? Well, they made sure to dial it in right so their children wouldn't have the ability to question them in the system because they put more energy and effort into keeping their bullshitting than they do into just getting straight to the truth. Matter of fact, if they looked at the real numbers, they'd realize it was a lot easier to just come to the truth than it was to keep their bullshitting, which was never going to pan out anyway. So it's also delusional lies, falsities. It's just ridiculous. They didn't know that because they didn't do the audit yet. And then we're going to show them. That's why you do the audit. It's a good checks and balances system. So I'm going to prosecute basically the world, science, health, genetic fraud for their stealing of the children and knocking you down and doing their science in secret and making their shit up and then changing their story when they know that you know. Because they're going to make $800 million securities registered. They're going to make $4 billion projects, money, while they're murdering you and making you be blamed for it, which is breaking all the laws, which are all robbery. It's just all robbery, but it's all forms of fraud, all forms of lies, all forms of misrepresentation, all forms of conspiring, all forms of premeditating, all forms of finalizing. You know what I'm saying? But it's all robbery and death. It's all killing you and robbery and psychological warfare. That's not really even in the laws. They don't really talk about that shit. They really don't. They really don't address that issue. We're not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to prosecute the world, and I got to go international because the Constitution doesn't even talk about women. We've been assumed to be the wife of the man. Even in the slavery, right? Because the Constitution kind of said slavery was, that's what the reparations thing is all about, right? Women, even an African American woman, was still only the wife of the African American slave. The slave was him. She was his wife. He was the founding father. She was his wife. They don't talk about us because they're assumed to be the wife, which is why in our system, in our world, that's the game plan. It has to have a family, right? But these are nuclear families. Why are you allowing people to get divorced and scapegoating the children? Their shit stinks and it doesn't add up. But that's why I got to go beyond the United States because it's international. Because they don't even recognize women and we are our own body politic. And they don't even want to recognize us when they are trying to set up and establish a human capital system. They're in contradiction to themselves. They're in contradiction to the international treaties. They're in contradiction to the Sustainable Development Goals. And now there's flutter going on about 2025 and these politicians, they all stink. Look, guys, I don't need to explain anything. Forget anything you've heard here. It's as simple as this. They're breaching the fiduciary duty. They're in a position of trust. I'm suspicious of what they're up to because of very credible reasons, and therefore I'm demanding the audit. Boom. I'm allowed to do it. So however we got to get it done, but my claim is valid, and therefore I'm going to speak on behalf of the rest of the people and say I already know that they would agree with this. The only reason why anybody would inquire into the circumstance, go, okay, what's this case all about? If I'm letting you speak for me, you're going to get the information and they're going to go, oh yeah, no, I don't want to have a thing to do with that. The only people that are going to do that are going to be the expected people, the ones that already work for the system. And in and out and weave that in and weave it into their families as well because they got themselves dialed in. Those are going to go without saying. So those numbers don't count. Of course you're going to. Kind of like your political point of view. Right. Your vote apparently represents who you are in private. But that's public. See, they don't want to, they're blending them. My private life is supposed to be the one I have at home that you're not supposed to invade into. So my private life, my privacy is supposed to be the stuff that matters to me that you don't get to intrude on. Right. But because of the fact they need to do something and keep power over you is why they make you the person at home, your private life, you're a public consumer. Because they're not going to give you privacy. No, you're a public consumer now at home. So now you're doing a job when you're at home. But that's my private life. No, you're a consumer at home. And that's why your consumer medical records are ours, not yours. That's why your records are ours, not yours. That's why you're a public consumer that doesn't have any privacy. The only privacy you have, the privacy that, privacy is a joke. The private's where they're getting away with. So what more do I need to say? I'm going to demand the audit, and I'm going to demand the consensus poll. I want to hear it. You guys have done wrong. Enough evidence is here for us to ask for the audit, not ask, demand, require, before we can make an informed vote. Period. Full audit. And the consensus poll. Stop making your sex robots and develop an application where we can all communicate together at the same time. Stop building your bombs and passing out money and make sure everyone's got a computer. You can do that. We can do that. We're going to do that. Because that's two things. Until we have the information, it's valid and checked, cross-checked. Not by you, by us. All of you. Did you do what you said you were going to do? All the checks and balances. It's time. It's what you do. Full audit so we can make an informed decision so that we can get the bad guys cleaned out of there first. Then get the consensus poll to find out how everyone's feeling, what they're dealing with, what's going on. Because that's how we protect each other, by not letting them get away with dividing us. And it's for the sake of, because you do it for the sake of. Because you do it every year. That's what you do. You know, you go to the dentist every so often. You go to the doctor every so often. You get your hair cut so often. These are the seasons of living a good life. Like they want to pretend like they care about. So we're just going to implement that into the schedule like we should have had already a long time ago. And it's nothing against you, and it's nothing against me. And the fact that I'm saying it is because we're expected to. Otherwise, they're going to call us names, and they're going to punish us for not saying anything. So they're not even allowed to pick on me because they're expecting us to say something, or else we screw ourselves. So I know they really secretly want us not to say anything. But the truth of the matter is that they can't fuck with me because I'm doing simply my civil duty by saying something. Their conundrum is going to be their conundrum. Their snare is going to be their snare. Their pit is going to be their pit. Their mad, bad dad is going to be their mad, bad dad. They're going to cancel themselves out. And all that's going to be left is truth. Awesome. Mama. Healed. Love. Abundance. Peace. And humility for those who have a problem with getting along. And sharing. And being creative. And getting over it type stuff. Okay? I don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. That's it. So, for the record, genetic science is all up to no good. They're trying to scrub the information, it looks like. Oh, I'll put this down. But allref is directly tied to T2TCHM13. T2T, the novel cell line that they mapped the human genome from, is a female with a Y chromosome tied to allref, has a Y chromosome, and the mitochondria. I know that GRCH38 was your previous one, but I recognized it because that's the one I recognized from allref. I also recognized the information when I started doing the research in 2019. It looks like they've identified that they ripped my child and I apart, and they're curious to know how that happens. What happens to their love? What happens to their love? What happens to their feelings? But it also looks like it documented them violating my child to see if she could overcome also other forms of diversity. It looked like they were documenting me being harmed, knocked down, till they knock you out. And it also identifies, as of recent, that they recognize that the separation needs to end and we need to be reunited because it's causing too much harm for us to be separated. I'm glad they said so. Right? Theirs is going to be theirs. Right? So the same thing that's fucking us right now is going to be the fucking saving grace to getting this world healed. So I got a smile on my face even though I'm bitching out of my mouth. This is the way it gets done. I'm not realizing that God does everything on purpose. So I don't care if you're happy where you are or you're not happy where you are, or you want to judge your neighbor or your son or your daughter, or you don't want to judge your neighbor or son. But whether you like it or not, you can at least all resolve yourselves to wherever you are, God wants you there. Get good with it. Obviously, you're supposed to be learning something. Obviously, this plays into the bigger picture. Obviously, this isn't the end of it all. So you're going to have to try to broaden your scope, huh? Back to stop calling things things before you know what things they are. And as a step number 1, 2, or 3, if you're capable, it's always a good suggestion to communicate with your subject just in case they've got information that'll help you understand it more. There's like one of these Harvard professors. He's the greatest. I can't think of his name right now, but after he went and did some time to watch some monkeys in the wild, he talking about keeping his notes for like 6 months. They like let him sit there, and then there's like a scuffle amongst the monkeys and stuff, and he remembers this one monkey looking over at him like, "Were you gonna do anything?" And he admitted so proudly, like the professor is, "And I didn't. I didn't. Of course I didn't. No way. I didn't do anything. Why didn't you do anything?" Because he's supposed to act like he's a scientist that doesn't. They don't see me. They see you all right. They know that you're sitting there every day for the 6 months. The fact that you're able to sit there and not get messed with is because they see you as one of them, kind of, and they're just wondering why you're so quiet. But when shit goes down, they looked at you for help because they let you sit there without asking what your problem is, what you want. And you didn't help them because you're pretending that you're invisible, even though you know you're not. Tell me some more. Listen, this guy I actually love. He's very on point, but he's also very, digital, very accurate. You got to be more analog. Got to be more flexible. My point is, it's that easy to lose respectability when you're not using your brain. Reason. It doesn't reason like it doesn't feel. Did it feel good? Did it feel good when the monkey looked at you like, "What are you gonna do?" And you had to make like you weren't there. It didn't, Janie. Did you ever act like that before? No, but you're going to act like that now because you have to pretend. You have to pretend he's not looking at you. You have to pretend you don't notice it looking at you. Did it feel good? You can admit that it didn't. You can admit that it felt like you knew you wish you would have. But so there you go. That's what you call when you know you did something that wasn't the right thing to do. And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear the explanations. I don't want to hear the hullabaloo. We're just earthlings with a lot of other species in this planet. The animals have figured out how to live in harmony with each other. They're not warring with one another. They're not raping. You don't see animals doing anything that humans are doing. You think you're intelligent? But you haven't even approached your final test for your beast. That's what God's whole deal is. There's no dude, God. There's no she or he, God. God is central source light, and light has information, and information is intelligent, and we've seen it in action. And then it comes to life. It's awesomeness, and it's awesomeness. There's a purpose in things, and there's seasons of things, and there's the complete sets of things where the whole timeline is known about back then for now, because it's actually a circle, not linear. So the cosmos has this knowledge that's available to all of us, and it's making it available like a host puts food on the table. But right now, there's like a scuffle in the area, the meeting area. We're not going to put the tablecloths down and start bringing in the trays of food yet, because they're fighting and they're throwing chairs around. So we got to get them to knock that off first and make sure that we secure the area. My God, we can't do that yet. Doesn't matter if it's supposed to start. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I guess you'll have to tell the band to just sit tight. You make that the obstacle, but we have to get it done. Okay, so fraud, my child, violence against women and children. They're committing fraud against all of us, and they think that it's okay. And it's big. It's major. I'm not joking around. So nobody's got the excuse to be bitching at me about speaking for humanity to demand the audit and to demand the consensus, which we've never had. Anybody with anybody anywhere knows. It's like, do you want to run a quality control review of that? But this is a really high dollar deal. Why would you say no? But it's free. You don't have to. I'm lucky to be alive. That's been God's plan. God needed me to know that it's God that I'm dealing with and not just like luck. And that's what key information in those scriptures are there for. Not to help a self-righteous, pubescent beast person to continue slaughtering and annihilating and genociding and femiciding, fantasizing, delusionizing, and putting psychopaths with weapons and decision-making power. Nope. That's not what God did. You've got really low standards, though, don't you? Yeah, we're going to help you out of that delusion, too. Till next time, keep your ranting and roaring. Keep your roaring kitty. Keep your kitty roaring.